Hi, I'd like to welcome to the Carson City Cultural Commission meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order since it is 5:30. Roll call, please.
Karen Aboud. Here. Barbara Denale.
Here.
Terry McBride.
Present.
Janet Gary.
Here.
Lupe Ramirez.
Here.
Eleanor Bugley and Sandra Nagel are absent. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay, now at this time, we'd like to take public comments. Please identify yourself at the microphone when you come up. Everybody is encouraged to make their comments, and just try to limit your time to 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Hello, my name is Nancy Lamson, and this is Terry Peets, and we are members of the Carson Valley Quilt Guild. And we want to thank Mark Salinas, who invited us here tonight. He met with our guild's president and another member of our guild just recently at your National Art Council art opening event. And so we then, as being co-chairs, Terry and I are co-chairs of the quilt show that's coming up. We then got invited to come and speak with you. So thank you for having us this evening. I'm going to tell you a bit about our guild. Our guild is comprised of 135 members, and these members come from Sun Valley, Reno, Incline, Carson City, Dayton, Silver Springs, Genoa, Minden, Gardnerville, Markleyville, Topaz, Wellington, and Yerington, so quite a large area. The guild meets the fourth Monday of every month at the Methodist Church in Gardnerville at 7 p.m. And we support a number of community organizations with charitable quilt donations. And those organizations would include like the Austin House in Minden, the Child and Family Services here in Carson City, the Carson Valley Medical Center in Gardnerville, CASA, the court-appointed special advocates, the Elks Club, Project Linus, local county fire departments, and the Douglas Center for Hope and Healing. Twice a year, we also host a national teacher or speaker who comes to our guild and on a weekend, on a Saturday and a Sunday, instructs classes in his or her technique, special quilting technique, and we do those usually at WNC. And those are open to all of our guild members for a very nominal little fee, and to the interested public also. That speaker then also provides the Monday evening program for us right after that weekend, what she does or he does the classes. So that's kind of our way of continuing our education and growth in our craft of quilting. Okay? So every other year, the Guild hosts a quilt show. And Terry and I, as I said, are co-chairs of this year's quilt show. It'll be held June 2nd and 3rd at the Douglas County Community and Senior Center in Gardnerville. And the event is from 10 to 4 on both Saturday and Sunday. There'll be over 200 quilts on display, and these aren't your normal grandma quilts. In fact, maybe I'll have Terry show you an example of more of what the quilts are like. These are small quilts, but they come in all sizes, and wall art, landscapes, all kinds of quilts. So don't think of just grandma's quilts on a bed. These are really very specialized quilts that'll be on display. There'll also be $20,000 in prize money that is awarded to exceptional quilt entries. We have a national certified judge who will come and will actually critique the quilts that are entered for judging, and then we'll award the prize ribbons and prize money. In addition to this national judge, we also have a featured quilt artist. This year it will be Velda Newman. She's an artist from Nevada City who will be coming our way. She does very mega big big artwork. And so she's going to be with us. She's going to actually be doing a lecture on Saturday and Sunday. She will come back next September as our national speaker teacher, provide the workshops on the weekends, and then the Monday evening program too. So, in addition to that, we'll have over 20 vendors there at the community center. There will be a heritage exhibit of old quilts. There will be raffle baskets, door prizes, and there'll be a special display of small quilts by SACWA, which is actually a national nonprofit organization. It stands for Studio Art Quilts Associates. And that nationwide group, SACWA, has like 3,400 members, and their goal is to promote the art quilt through education and exhibits and professional development and publications. The entry fee into our quilt show is $10. And you will begin to see publicity flyers and rack cards, just like this one, all over your city soon. They're being posted. In fact, we posted one on the bulletin board coming in tonight. So we are also on Facebook, and we will also be in the local newspapers as we get closer. So thank you again for the opportunity to let me speak with you this evening. And we invite you to come to the Quilt Show on June 2nd and 3rd, and we look forward to seeing you then. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy and Terry.
Hi there, my name's Matthew Welter. Okay, is it on? My name's Matthew Welter, and I'm a sculptor, have been all my life. And I have a company, a sculpture company in town here, down at the opposite end of town, 395 at the base of Spooner there. The distinctive blue building with the clouds painted on it and the statues and stumps and everything standing all over the place. And I've about 15 years ago now, I put in a proposal to create to use some of the land there, the NDOT land just adjacent to that property. It's between that property and the intersection. So it's kind of a crescent-shaped piece of property. And it's owned by a very elderly gentleman, and all these years he's been the kindest landlord in the world, and kept the rents low so I could get my art company there. I'm very wealthy in art, very poor in dollars. The artists here know how I feel. Yeah, and but I have a lot of ambition, and a lot of drive, and I have a lot of helpers. I teach a number of apprentices. I have an apprenticeship program. And they come and go, and some of them go and do things and then come back later, and then some of them fill commissions for me. And so that's their way of making some money. And I've trained a lot of artists through that facility. But that property, that adjacent property there is owned by NDOT, and they are open to the idea of my putting some sculptures on that property. 14 years ago when I talked to them, 15, something like that, they came back and said, well, you're going to have to figure out a way to maintain things, and they're right. Part of that is rotating sculpture displays. I'm also, I attend the Burning Man Festival, and I bring art down there every year. Down there they call me Timeless, and the people in that community won't know who I am if you tell them Matthew Welter. They don't know who you're talking about, so which is fine. But these huge artworks that I create to go to Burning Man, and I have a lot of them still. I've got about a dozen of them now. They're piling up out in my yard, and they are an example of the kind of displays I like to do out there. I say my yard. It's kind of a little sculpture garden that we've created. That property was very blighted when we came in there. The pavement was all cracked up. The building was painted all different colors in the rainbow, and we kind of tamed it down. We brought in a lot of wood chips as ground cover, and built up a sculpture garden there. And we planted a tree, and now we got a nice, beautiful tree out there. It's been I've been there almost 20 years. So we reclaimed that property in some ways, and I think we put a little spark of color on that. On that. Now comes the intersection with all of its wonderful art down the corridor. And lo and behold, here I am right at the end of that art walk. And I think it would be a wonderful place to have rotating displays of artists, various artists. And the theme is Liberty. The name of the park would be Liberty Gateway. And America is probably one of the strongest current home of liberty, but it's not its source. It's not its birthplace. Birthplace goes back to before Sumeria. Okay, so it's a real part of our history as people. Liberty is, I think people are negligent. Sometimes they don't study enough about what liberty is. People don't know what it is. If you ask them, they say freedom, but it's not. It's really the kind of hard casing on freedom. And it's a whole system of institutions and values and beliefs that we hold that keep powerful people from picking on me and you. Right? And that's nice. But it goes, the first word for liberty is amagi, that's Sumerian. Comes to us on a clay text. And the word means return to the mother, which for them would be, where do they come from? Historians have argued for decades over Sumeria since they discovered it. Where did it come from? It was fully formed. It was like a fully formed civilization inserted into humanity, into history there. Big anomaly. They don't know where it came from because it had all these firsts like architecture and astronomy and the first bicameral Congress and the first rule of law, Hammurabi's Code. And so Sumeria has its roots deep in liberty. So we always wonder what's the mother of that civilization. Well, they gave us a word that describes the way to probably the pre-Diluvian world. That we're just starting to open up a window to and see that there was an age of humanity that was they had it right. They had it right in a lot of areas, and these things that Sumeria has are handed down to them. That's what their clay texts tell of. Their clay texts tell of all this, and only recently have they been deciphered. But the fact is, liberty is an ancient flame. And if we can't keep it alive in a capital city in Nevada, if we can't put our resources to keeping that flame alive, it could go out. I mean, if we don't keep the flame alive. Liberty, I've been banging the Liberty drum with my monuments at Burning Man for about 10 years now. I have a giant 30-foot tall Statue of Liberty, very contemporary Statue of Liberty that's down on the property, and a big Minuteman, 8 foot tall now. And we have a number of sculptures we call the Guardians of Liberty, figurative pieces. And we have a Liberty Bell with a crack in it. And all my sculptures, I take them to Burning Man. I have a whole technique of burning holes into them in caverns and tunnels.
Matthew, a couple of questions. So you work in wood, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and you use chainsaws? Okay, that's what I thought.
Chainsaws and fire.
Yeah.
And fire. I carve with the fire at Burning Man.
And so
and then I bring them back and harden all those textures, and they become permanent monuments.
So how far into the discussion with NDOT are you?
Well, I discussed it with them for about 15 years ago, and they came back to me. They had a department, brought it up at one of their department head meetings. And they said, well, you got some, we're not ready to do this anyway because the freeway is nowhere near there. And
right.
Agreed. They said, you got some maintenance issues to cover, and one of them is having rotating displays. I think that's also a way of, dealing with the naysayers that if they know it's going to be there permanent, there's somebody going to say, I don't like it, So this way they might be able to tolerate it for a year,
Okay.
2 years. And then maybe something nicer will come in that they like.
Okay.
And it would have to be some kind of a community process that helps select the work.
Okay.
I would probably gather up pictures of artworks that are available and say which of these are we able to do this time. It would be small installations, 3, 4. Some of these artworks that I can get artwork from world-class artworks.
So-
Not only from Burning Man, but from the Grass Valley area, it's loaded with artists.
So we have a process in place where we could pull together a public panel to look at your different renderings or drawings or
I have-
photos or
have-
whatever you
no.
have, but not here.
No.
But it would be like a working group with some of us and then members of the public.
Mm-hmm.
But it sounds like you need to get a little bit further with NDOT as far as their okey-dokey.
Right, and another
Yeah.
thing I need to do, and I want to put it in everybody's head here, is that I don't own the property. A very elderly man owns the property, and he called me, actually by coincidence, he called me about 3 days ago. He said, I've got this five-way bypass that's about 15 years old now, and he said it's starting to plug up, and I'm not long for this world, and I need to do something with my property. He said, I need to list it and sell it. I said, that's good, Carl. We've known it's coming. And I said, well, why don't you let me see if I can find a property investor. There's people that do that all day long that would like that piece of property there, that likes my ideas and know that what I'm doing, I believe, will increase the value of all the property on that corner if we can do what I'm talking about. And then let me go for a decade or two and see what I can build, and then sell the property.
Okay, well, it sounds like a couple of pieces need to fall in place, and we wish you well. And when the property changes hands and you have permission from that landowner to proceed with your vision, then maybe you can come back to us, let us know what's going on, and then let us know if you've had any conversations with the easement guys
Right,
over
but
at
in
NDOT.
the interim, though, I need to find a property investor that can secure that
Okay.
property before the wrong person buys it. If the wrong person buys it, and the city will lose, I think what I'm doing there between me and the Brewery Arts Center, the two major cultural features in town, be ashamed to lose it. So I'm trying not to let that happen. I don't want to start all over in another town, no fun.
Thank you very much. Very interesting.
You bet. And
Yeah.
I've got some of my proposals that I put together.
Okay.
I gave one to Mark. He can make copies of it, but I have a number of copies if anyone would like one. If anybody here would like one of my proposals.
Matthew, if you want to leave them at the front door, that's where all the stuff is. For anyone in the audience, if you want some extra information to follow us, it's all available for you at the front door.
Sure, it's all on here with diagrams and pictures and all that. All right, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Brian Fitzgerald. I'm the president of the Carson Valley Arts Council. I had the fortune of meeting Mark Salinas last week. Came down to visit our facility to make an introduction, and per his invite, I want to come up here and make an introduction to you. See a lot of familiar faces in the crowd. Worked with some of the folks in the past, but I did want to make you aware of the Arts Council that exists in Minden. We are the local arts agency down there, 501c3 nonprofit. Been around since 2004. Our agency purchased what was the old Copeland Lumber Building in downtown Minden, old Quonset hut facility. It's got a beautiful 18,000 square foot warehouse that our vision is to convert that into a performing arts facility someday. In the meantime, we've been doing a lot of programming throughout the community, primarily winter spring concert series. But when we do bring in this talent, we also engage with schools and have assemblies and bring the artists out into the elementary schools and try and expand our youth art education outreach. Really appreciate Mark coming down to introduce himself. I think there's potential for a great relationship between Carson Valley and Carson City. I'm very envious of your cultural commission here. I think one of the struggles that we've had in Douglas County is just convincing the policymakers and stakeholders how much the arts can make a difference, not only in the lives of youth and adults, but also in helping to revitalize downtown. And so I also have other hats in the community. I'm the assistant director for Douglas County Community Services and recently appointed to a Citizens Action Committee on helping the towns of Minden and Gardnerville provide an update for their plans for prosperity, and I'll be pushing the arts hard. So also looking at a potential appointment coming to serve on the Carson Valley Visitors Authority. I've worked with Kyle in the past, and perhaps there'll be an opportunity for future relationships through the Visitors Authority and with you folks in the Cultural Commission. So again, appreciate being here. Just want to make an introduction. We're just going to be another resource out there for the arts, and hope to be working with you in the future. I do have a flyer I'll be leaving at the front door. Our next concert is February 9th with Diego's Umbrella. We'll be performing that Friday night at the CBIC Hall in Minden. The information is on the flyer. Thank you.
Hi, Sharon Ross, Capital City Arts Initiative. I just want to announce a couple of exhibitions. We have our art from WNC up over at the Brick. There's no reception for that one, but we have art by 11 students, and it will be up through mid-April, and it's a pretty delightful exhibition. I hope you get a chance to go over and take a look. Nevada Neighbors is coming up in February, on February 13th, in collaboration with the International Film Weekend. We're presenting Robin Hollibird. She's KMPR's film reviewer, and she's doing a reading basically and discussing her book, Elvis, Marilyn, and the Space Aliens, Nevada Screen Icons. So that's right before the film weekend, so I hope you can join us. And that will be at the Brick. Then on March 14th, we're presenting our first Nevada Neighbors talk out of 62, our first one on Carson City, with Mark Salinas. It's titled Choices, Chances, and Changes. That's going to be at the Union on March 14th. So, and we've got a new start time for those at 6 o'clock. We hope a little earlier start time will help encourage audiences. Rick Parsons is hanging his show on Friday, weather permitting. He's bringing it down from the lake. So I hope you can join us on February 2nd for the reception and his show will be up through late May. So, any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sharon.
Thanks.
Anyone else out there? No? Yes?
Fred Howland from the Nevada Artists Association. Was here to announce that we have completed our remodel. New carpeting, new walls, new paint, some new art. And I want to invite you, all of you. New board members? New board members. Yes, we had our first board meeting for 2018, which went very well, and Mark attended as a guest. And on February 24th, between 4 and 6 p.m., we're going to have our grand reopening and artist reception for our first judge show for 2018. So
Sorry, what is that date again?
February 24th at 4 to 6 p.m. You're welcome.
Okay, well, if there aren't any others that would like to come up and talk right now during public comment period, we'll move to the next action. Item on the agenda, which is approval of the September 11th, 2017 meeting minutes, and also the November 21st, 2017 meeting minutes.
I'll move approval of the September 11th, Barbara Deneo for the record, minutes.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And do I have a motion to approve the minutes from November 21st?
I'll move to approve the minutes of the November 21st commission meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Motion approved. Okay, for item number 5 is the adoption of the agenda action. Basically, this is where we can move agenda items if needed. Do we have that?
We're going to stay on track tonight. Thanks.
Next item on the agenda is for discussion only, a presentation by Nevada Division of Environmental Protection's Patty Mon. And I met Patty recently when I was hanging Capital Collage posters.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's right. I'm Patty Moen, and I have a little PowerPoint presentation today just to help me keep on track. So we have a recycled art contest, so Mark Salinas has invited me to talk to you about that, and he has been the judge for the last 2 years, so I'll give a little background. Next slide. So this is who I am. I'm the Northern Nevada Recycling Coordinator. I work in the Bureau of Waste Management, which is not to be confused with Waste Management, Inc. In the Division of Environmental Protection, which is under the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources. Next slide. So the Recycled Art Contest, our purpose is to promote recycling, reducing, and reusing in Nevada. We make about 6 pounds of garbage per person per day, which is higher than the national average, by the way. And that's about, over 3 million tons of garbage that are disposed of in our state. Much of this can be reused or recycled, and so why not use these materials to create art? The Recycled Art Contest started in 2014, which was before I was the recycling coordinator, and it coincides to announce the winners on America Recycles Day, which is always November 15th. So we usually open it up in September we announce it for about 2 months, and then we only take submissions online. So basically the public information officer, I just found this out, she is the kind of brainstormed, what can we do to promote recycling, and found that many communities do recycled art contests and all over the country. So next slide. So she just Googled sustainable businesses and came up with the Las Vegas Sands as a green business. And so they actually do a lot of different sustainable initiatives. And they were very open to providing some money for prizes. And so they also do other things like food waste composting and recycle a lot of material at the casino. And they also hold a recycled art contest for their employees. And they have a display every year of people that can bring their entries to their casino. Next slide. So we do a statewide contest, and we just do photo submissions because obviously Nevada is a big state and it's hard for people to get their submissions to Carson City. It limits it widens participation by letting people all over the state enter, but it's hard to do justice to the art sometimes with photographs, so that makes it kind of difficult to judge, especially if they only send one picture. And a lot of times when we get the pieces, you're just so amazed at the difference between a photograph and the actual piece. So here's a couple of entries. The first one is actually Riley McBride, which as a Galena student did Highway Coyote. I really love the little plastic dancer made from disposable plastic utensils. Next slide. There's the record-breaking purse. So these are we have different categories for K through 5, 6 through 8, high school, adult, and then a class submission. And then this is one of our Carson City winners, Chase, built this scrap metal arm. I just love how he's cradling it there. The next slide. So this one is another Carson City resident, Emily Servey, and she actually won a couple years ago with another one of her. These are 3D paper sculptures that she does. And our adult winner in the next slide this year was this snowy owl made of recycled paper. I would really like to see that one in person, but I didn't get to. So we also, the winners come from Reno, Pahrump, Boulder City, Carson, Las Vegas. We've had a lot of entries from Elko and Ely as well. So we do get statewide participation. Next slide. So that brings us to some ideas for the future. We don't want to be stagnant, and so we want to try to come up with new ways to promote our recycled art contest. And so one of the ideas we talked about was doing some workshops where people can actually come and make recycled art. And then another thing that other communities do is use materials that they collect during cleanups. And I have some pictures in a minute for that. And also maybe like material-specific theme like single-use plastic or something we want to focus our attention on. And maybe get some material donations from businesses or manufacturers. So these sculptures are very large scale, and these are all made from marine waste. So it's very interesting if you go to their website. It's called, I wish I wrote it down. I didn't write it down. I'm sorry, but they collect the material and sort it by color, and then wash it, and then they had a few artists that really work on this for, months, if not years, to create these large-scale pieces. And I have the next slide. Oh, so then another interesting project is in San Francisco. Recology has an artist in residence at the transfer station, and they have 6 residencies per year. They have a complete art studio there, and the first thing they do when you get to their transfer station is you can drop off items for donation, that are reusable instead of putting them directly in the landfill. And so this is a really cool program that they've done since 1990. And the woman that started it, Jo Hansen, she restored a dilapidated house, and then she started cleaning up her street. And did a big anti-litter campaign, which turned into public art and a citywide cleanup. So they actually have a book now that tells all about it and has pictures from all the different artists. So what's my next slide? So this is who we are. We are Nevada Recycles. We have a website, nevadarecycles.nv.gov, if you have any questions about recycling in our state. We have a Facebook page and a hotline, and there's my email. So one of the other things that we do is calculate the state recycling rate, and Nevada's is we've had a 25% goal since 1993, and we've met it for 3 years between 2011 and 13, and it kind of goes up and down. It's down, it was down to 20%, we're up 22%. We'll see what happens this year. But if we can let people know that the things we're throwing away really are commodities and resources, and maybe we should think twice about what we're consuming and what we're throwing away. So any questions? All right. Thank you. And
one question I have. I'm thinking about the city's landfill, and so is there a way that they can engage with you in terms of items?
It's possible. I have a few contacts over there, and I see that there is just in today's paper they're doing some. They're going to put the recycling or the waste franchise up for public comment and whatnot, and so maybe, Carson has some curbside recycling. But there's a lot more that we could do. Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much, Patty. There are some creatives in the crowd, some associations with children's museums, and I was hoping maybe all of you could cross paths tonight, as well as some people with exhibition space possibilities.
Okay.
And I can put you in touch with the Arts and Culture Director in Las Vegas, because I know you're probably looking for spaces to show there as well.
And maybe do some workshops, too.
Yeah, that sounds great. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Patty, very much. That's very interesting. So next on the agenda is a presentation by the Children's Museum Director, Beth Ellis.
Hello. Thank you for having us, and thank you, Mark, for extending the invitation. I brought with me one of my favorite sidekicks, Casey Gillis, who's our board president. I told her about this tonight, how excited we were to come in and meet you all and share, and she said, I want to come along too. I said, great. We would like to tell you about an upcoming event that we have. I was contacted a couple of months ago by Myron over at the Nevada State, and he goes, I'd like to do something with you guys. I said, great. We want to start getting out there and doing some things and collaborating with some of the other museums. And so we have put together a Chinese New Year's celebration. And we're very excited. It's coming together very quickly, really quickly, as our date is quickly approaching for Saturday, February 17th. You might go, how can the Children's Museum in the Nevada State, what are you guys, like, how are you going to make this work? So we've spent some time meeting with Myron, and we're very excited about, I guess, the step that we will be taking to pull this together. So actually the celebration will begin at the Nevada State Museum in their corridor area, and Myron is going to speak about the connection of the Chinese community and the history here in Carson and the special shrine he has up in his museum. And then Sonia, we have some dancers coming in. They're going to be performing with children from the community, the lion dance. And then we've asked for sheriff's protection to go down the street to take little good luck, I'm not quite sure what they are, to different businesses as we go down the street, parade down the street, and then to actually cross the street and then enter into the Children's Museum, where we will have the Japanese drummers, and we are going to transform the museum into a mini little Chinatown for the day. We tried to get sponsor. We just didn't quite kind of go through, so it will be admission to the museums for the day, free to members. So we're very excited about this. We hope to have many more activities in collaboration with businesses that are close by us, and we are hoping to extend ourselves into the community.
What time does the activities, are they intended to start?
10 o'clock. 10 o'clock over at the Nevada State. And then we hope to get back over to the Children's Museum by about 10:30. And we'll have quite a few different activities. We're going to do chopsticks with picking up marshmallows. For some of you who want to be challenged or not. We're going to be making lanterns. Children will also be designing their own dragon masks. And then we have a gal that is going to be teaching Chinese character writing. So there'll be quite a few activities.
Beth, I spoke to Myron 2 days ago.
I know.
And so we're going to set things up so the dancers will go to the coin shop, which is almost across the street from the museum, into our office, and then down the street to the bikesmith, and then to your museum. So we'll spread that Chinese celebration as much as we can within that block or two.
We're excited about it. We hope to make a lot of noise. All right. Any other questions? Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Oh. And that all the children who participate will be in the parade with the dragon.
Yes, yes. All the children that show up, we're going to blast it out on Facebook and hopefully through Carson Now and everything else, that will show up will be a part of the procession. And with the mask and the noisemakers and everything else. So, all right. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth. Okay, number 8 is a presentation by Stewart Indian School Museum Director Bobby Rader. Welcome, Bobby.
Hello, thank you. Excuse me a minute. I have a cold. I wanted to thank you all for inviting us to your meeting tonight. I wanted to give you an update on what we're doing at the Stewart Indian School. I'm Bobby Rader. I'm the new museum director for the Stewart Indian School Cultural Center that we're putting together out at Stewart. And I wanted to give you a little bit of background first about myself. I have about 20 years of experience working in museums in different states, and I helped Haskell Indian Nations University, which was another government boarding school in Lawrence, Kansas, create a museum and cultural center in 2002. So now I moved here in May of 2017, and I'm now a Nevadan. So I'm excited to be here, very happy to be here. I wanted to let anybody who doesn't know very much about Stewart history know a little bit about the place. Stewart was created in 1890 by the Nevada legislature as a government-run boarding school for Native children. Usually, in the beginning, it was for the Paiute and Washoe and Western Shoshone tribal students. And it opened in December 17th, 1890, out at Stewart, which is about 3 miles, I think, outside of Carson City, on about 240 acres of land. It started out being run by the Federal Bureau of Indian Affairs as a school for assimilation, which was a federal policy to remove Indian children from their families and bring them to boarding schools and teach them skills and English, and basically to help them become kind of like citizens. So that was the main focus as it started. It started in a large Victorian-style building out at Stewart, and as enrollment increased, then more buildings were built. The Virginia and Truckee Railroad came out in 1916, and they had a stop out there, and they brought supplies and students to the school. By 1919, over 400 students attended Stewart. The curriculum was mostly reading, writing, and arithmetic in the beginning, and of course teaching them English. It extended then to vocations. So the boys learned skills like carpentry and ranching, mechanics and painting, things like that. The girls learned cooking, sewing, laundry, kind of service-related skills. And the students supplied most of the needs of the school. So they made all of the food and grew the food and made the food and made all the uniforms and the clothing. They were working for the school, basically. And although vocational training was mostly the focus for many years, by the 1960s it changed to an academic focus, and it became a high school. So the school closed in 1980 by the federal government, and they said that it was because of federal budget cuts and because of earthquake concerns about the buildings. So the state of Nevada then took over the campus in the 1990s, and they now use it for different state offices, including the Nevada Indian Commission, which is where I work. And also the Washoe tribe started the Stewart community out there on some of the tribal land, or on some of the state land, sorry, during these transaction changes. Today, the entire campus is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. So my boss is Sherry Rupert. She's here tonight in the audience. She is the executive director of the Nevada Indian Commission, and she has worked tirelessly for 12 years to collect the history of Stewart and plan for the future uses of Stewart. Excuse me. And Sherry was able to convince the state legislature and Governor Sandoval last year in 2017 to fund $4.5 million to Stewart to renovate the old administration building on the campus to become our new cultural center. She also was able to convince the legislature to fund 2 positions, my position as museum director and Chris Gibbons is our museum curator. So we also are creating a welcome center in the old post office on the campus. So to create this museum, Chris and I have been working very hard to make sure that our museum is going to follow the professional standards of the American Alliance of Museums, and so that someday we can be accredited as a national museum. So we've been creating this, what we call the Plan of Operations, which is all of the documents about our policies and procedures and how we will operate the museum. I've got it right here if anybody wants to look at it. It's just a few, just a little bit. But we want to make sure that this is a professionally organized museum and that we follow codes of ethics and that we have documents and deeds of gifts and all of that kind of thing to be a professional museum. We also are following a model that we call the Eco Museum model, and it is actually a French model of a museum management that looks at the sense of place and the spirit of a place and links that to a museum or cultural center. And it includes looking at the landscape, the elders, the stories, the traditions, the dances, all aspects of the history of a community. And it's a very community-based, decentralized way of operating a museum. So we work with an advisory committee that's made up of Stewart alumni, and they help guide us and tell us what they would like us to do with this new cultural center. And then also this model allows us to develop partnerships and collaborations with other entities in the city and the community and with the tribal communities in Nevada as well. So we are planning a blessing ceremony on May 3rd that we hope we know that the governor will be able to attend, but we also are inviting tribal spiritual leaders to come to Stewart and do a blessing ceremony of our building before we start renovation, so that we start this project with good intentions and help this project be a way of healing for the harsh policies of the way the school started in 1890. So we hope that the renovations will begin in May of 2018, sorry, and be completed by December or early spring of 2019. We'll have a grand opening. All of this information will be publicized through social media and press releases and flyers, so we get the word out about all of these activities. But we invite you all to come out for these different events and help us to celebrate this new beginning for Stewart. We also are working with a nationally known exhibit designer to design a new permanent exhibit about the history of Stewart. And we have benefited a lot from research that Terry McBride has provided to Stewart over the years and oral history interviews with alumni. We're also collecting more information about Stewart that we are finding in lots of different repositories and places, and collecting more oral histories, finding artifacts and things that we want to use in our exhibit. And we're also working with a group of local Native artists to help us as consultants on our exhibit design, so that we're definitely placing this exhibit and this history within the land. And these artists are also related to people who attended Stewart, so they bring that knowledge and those stories with them. And they're going to be helping us with our exhibit design. Let's see. And we're also working with the Stewart Indian School Preservation Alliance, which is a nonprofit organization that is helping us with grant writing and fundraising to help us operate the school and the museum. And I have a flyer a card that I'll leave at the front entrance, but it has information about a rendering of what our cultural center will look like, as well as a notice that we've just completed a documentary of interviews with Stewart alumni, and Joanne Peden is the producer and filmmaker who helped us with this documentary project, and we hope that this is going to premiere in the winter of 2018. Okay, so one last thing I wanted to leave you with is, so the Heard Museum in Phoenix has a boarding school exhibit that's been up for 15 years. There was not one word of Stewart in this exhibit in the whole time it's been there. They featured a lot of other boarding schools, but not Stewart. And we really feel that Stewart is so unique and is so important that we want them to include it. So we've been collecting information and sharing it with the Heard Museum staff, and we brought them out and they've toured the campus. And they're going to revise their exhibit, and we're hoping they'll include a lot about Stewart. But in the meantime, we've been identifying what makes Stewart so unique among the boarding schools, and I just wanted to share a couple of those things with you, and I do have them in a handout that I'll leave at the front entrance. So Stewart has been very successful in athletic championships over the years. They've had famous athletes. Their band has won numerous music festivals, and the band has actually existed since 1896. Superintendent Frederick Snyder came to Stewart in 1919, and he wanted to beautify the campus, so he planted trees and rose trellises and flower gardens, and also brought in Hopi stonemasons to design and create and work with Stewart students to learn how to become stonemasons, and they've created these beautiful stone buildings that are unique, and they're at no other boarding school. They're beautiful. So in addition to that, Stewart is one of the few intact boarding school campuses. So most of the boarding schools either don't exist anymore, for instance, Carlisle in Pennsylvania, or if they exist, like Phoenix Indian School, there's maybe 1 or 2 buildings left. But Stewart has 60 buildings on 110 acres, and they're beautiful. So we want to feature that and talk about how unique Stewart is because of that. Also because Originally, the school invited the Great Basin tribal students to, well, didn't invite, brought them to the school. Eventually, over 200 tribes in the western states attended Stewart. So there's so many tribes who have been represented at Stewart that we want to feature that as well. And although the school began as an attempt to remove Native culture from the students and their practices, eventually the federal policies changed, and the school did change, and it became a place that the students wanted to come to, and they're very proud of Stewart. Stewart was as far as I know, the only boarding school that taught ranching. Everybody else was teaching agricultural skills, so the ranching is very unique to this area. And although the policies in the beginning of the school are very harsh, and the practices, many students at Stewart and their parents advocated for change, and they were able to convince the superintendents to change some of these policies. So we want to really feature that in our exhibit and talk about the resilience of the students who did attend Stewart and their families, and also the impact that the school had on the families and still has today. And then finally, Stewart had the only female superintendent in the whole Indian Service, and her name was Elida Bowler, and we want to feature her and talk about the progressive changes that she made at Stewart. And then we are working, Sherry has consulted with a group of people to do a master plan of the entire Stewart campus, and they are in the process of putting this master plan together, and it is a way of preserving the entire campus, always keeping the stories of the beginning of the school and those students and their stories at the center of the interpretation of the campus, but then finding a way for the campus and the renovations to be sustainable. So Sherry's here if you have any questions about the master plan. Thank you for your time. Do you have any questions?
Bobby, I'd like to invite one or both of you back in June once you have that master plan, or if you'd like to have H&K, the architects who are overseeing that master plan process, come and give the audience and the commission the update with the master plan so that we have an idea of, what the next 10 years is going to look like out there. That'd be great. Sure. If you could come back then.
Bob, you mentioned the blessing was, what was it?
May 3rd.
May 3rd. Is there a time for that yet?
I believe it starts at 10.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
And we'll have publicity out at 10 o'clock, May 3rd. Blessing of the site. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thanks for all your work. Thank you. Okay, number 9 on the agenda is a presentation by Mark Salinas of Capital on the Capital Collage event that took place in 2017.
Hello. So in November, as a future agenda item, it was to discuss Capital Collage. I just did a finance report to the CTA board just last week, so what I'm showing you is the same numbers that I showed them. You'll see that in the expenditures, there's about $4,000 of art assets that we have. These were commissions that artists made that we still own. And the idea, the concept behind that is to take that, and in addition to the parasols that were painted, thanks to Cynthia Brenneman here, and take all of that together as a piece of documentation. And just as we did with Da Vinci, or that we're in the process of doing with Da Vinci, purchase it and then transfer those as assets to the city in building this art collection that's manifested in the Arts and Culture Master Plan. So that's sort of the thought about it. And it includes everything from the live painting that was made by Talia Covell. It includes the 9-foot by 9-foot hand-painted backdrop and 3D elements. It includes the one piñata from that Justin Favela in Las Vegas that we saved, and the other one that's half, the head is taken half off. But elements like that is a documentation, I think, of our progress here in Carson City. Once again, I'm so pleased to see, I think I had like 21 people here on this side of the podium, and once again, to not be in trouble and have this many people here is pretty good. More than we had in November, and who knows, Eric might have to put an additional row of seats one day. Bleachers. Yeah, bleachers one day. Terry McNutt from Silver Oak Center. So, the topic is, are we going to do it again? If so, when? This ties in with a couple other elements in our agenda. She was here last meeting advertising the painting of the Cadillacs in the golf course, right? So that deadline is coming up soon. If you're interested in that, the applications are at the Visitors Bureau right there when you walk in. She wrote me a letter, and I'll read it to you. I noticed that this week's agenda might include suggestions for the 2019 fundraiser. I would like to offer the Silver Oak Event Center as a venue for whatever you decide as your event. I'm happy to donate the rental fee of $1,000. That's minus any food or alcohol, that is needed. And then she recognizes that Mardi Gras was a suggestion, but special events is her background, and she's here to help. So I just wanted to put that out there as a very nice of her to offer that. So that can be part of our discussion. Also, a part of the discussion, was the metrics of who we brought and the outcome it had in the end. And so, just as for the CTA board meeting, I have a couple of art love letters that people wrote in, people who attended the Capitol Collage, and they were impressed. So I want to share that information because I think it gives us the impact of what we did. This is from Quest Lakes and Theo McCormick, co-founders of the Resident Artist Program in Silver City, Nevada. Thank you for the opportunity to comment on Capitol Collage. We both attended and were delighted by the way the event brought together multiple forms of art by diverse urban and rural artists and performers in a celebratory atmosphere that skillfully highlighted our rich arts and culture community. That's from Silver City. From Judy Harris, the chair of the Cultural Alliance in Nevada. Judy lives in Las Vegas. I did attend Capitol Collage, and I was so very impressed with everything from the layout of the arts displays to the auction items to the food and drink and the performances that night. Bravo to you and your team. At Cultural Alliance Nevada, our focus is arts advocacy statewide, and we also appreciated the statewide artist presence at the event. When I arrived, I couldn't get over the fact that I couldn't find a parking space. The Boys and Girls Club, I think, runs into that quite frequently. A great accomplishment in what I understand was a very short amount of time. Thank you for your tremendous efforts in bringing more arts and arts awareness to our state capitol. Important. From Supervisor Bonkowski and Andy Wilson, we attended the Capitol Collage event with our kids in their late 20s, and we all loved it. We would love to support this event in some ongoing capacity. Changing the event to a winter date, since your event can be held indoors, is brilliant, as I think holding it on Nevada Day weekend provided too many competing events for your first-time event. And of course, we pulled the trigger on that evening because of the theme of the parade, including Michelle's wonderful piece. It seemed everything just had to drop that weekend, and that's why we did it. I saw people at Capitol Collage event age 21 into their 70s, and everyone had a blast. It would be great if there was a way to open up the event later in the evening, 9 or 10 p.m. for teenagers once alcohol is removed and dinners are done. The music was great, visuals were great, and I would love to work with you and collaborate with the Teen Center to get more of our youth exposed to an event like this. And I'll interject, maybe not as audiences, but as participants and with an abundance of visual and auditory art components to enjoy, such an event is pretty much non-existent for our teens growing up in this rural area. We very much look forward to seeing what next Capitol Collage event has in store for us. What an absolute treat. And then Jason Justice, who is a RAC board member. RAC, of course, we give our advice upon $25,000 a year to RAC, who then in turn kicks it to the Board of Supervisors and funds some great people actually here in our audience. Jim Mark, our wife Veronica, and I thought the first Capitol Collage event was a great value to the community, and we hope that it becomes a Nevada Day tradition. The use of space was very innovative, and we appreciated the incorporation of statewide cultural talent. Overall, the event was very well planned, effectively managed, and engaging enough to stay from the time the doors opened to the closing. Over the long term, the funding stream from this event should make a dramatic difference in our city's ability to support the arts, and of course, we're looking forward to next year's event. Thank you for the investment of your time and talent in this event and in Carson City in general. So there's a vote to keep it on that weekend. But, again, this, the money's raised for this. The intent was to spend it outside the RAC, development area. Finally, from Sharon Ross, Executive Director of the Capital City Arts Initiative. Capital Collage was an amazing, exciting first-time event for Carson City with artists from Carson City, Las Vegas, Reno, Elko, and Points East. With Burning Man art, folkloric dancers, a visual art exhibit, acrobatic performers, and many, many more representing arts and artists from around the state. The event was professionally presented and well attended. Thank you to Mark Salinas for his vision, energy, leadership, and creativity. Thank you to this board for its funding and support. The event brought statewide attention to Carson City's arts and culture environment and additional funding to help support the city's public art endeavors. So, Commissioner Abad, you had mentioned perhaps in February we could do this. Later on in the agenda, I'm going to be presenting a calendar. Of course, I'm working on not Capital Collage. I'm working on True Grit, which I think will be the month of the first week of May through the first week of June. There might be some compatibility with the May 3rd event, Sherry. And so just thinking, out loud, getting done with that, and then going back into another event might be a little rough. But we could propose to table this for later discussion. I think we have the numbers in front of us. We have the reaction. Michelle, not to point you out in the crowd, but I'm going to point you out in the crowd. Is there anything you wanted? Michelle Riley here was one of our featured artists, and of course she's the artist behind Inside the Mind of Da Vinci, which is outside, which I'll speak about later. Did you want to add anything about timing of the event or takeaways?
Yeah, should I go?
Sure, yeah. I mean, let's ask an artist, right?
Michelle Riley, the sculptor of Inside the Mind of Da Vinci. I think it was a great event because I've been here for off and on for almost 20-something years, and to be involved with something like this, supporting local artists, was a dream come true. And to support the arts and that type of activity was phenomenal. I grew up in Arizona, from Phoenix, Arizona, and there were a lot of arts there, and even in the Midwest, and I was really shocked when I came to Nevada and disappointed, thinking, we're so close to California, what's wrong? And then Mark came to town, and Mark Salinas has changed my vision and also of wanting to be a permanent local artist in Carson City. So thank you, Mark.
Michelle, do you have any thoughts on, Nevada Day weekend or around that time, or not?
For me, I mean, with the parade, I think it was great timing for myself to land at that time. But if we're not going to have something come through a parade, I don't think the timing would be crucial at that time. So, yeah.
As I mentioned, I'm going to be presenting a calendar that I've collected from local, regional, and state interests. Maybe we can look at that and see where this might fall.
Yeah, I mean, I have some thoughts, pros and cons on both, and so let's wait until we go over the calendar. Maybe things will become more clear to me.
Yeah, suffice to say, Mark, it was a really wonderful, wonderful evening. You did a lot of work, and a great many people were really happy. That was a fun thing. And I'd like to keep the momentum going in this area.
Yeah. And I have to applaud how much you did with a little. I mean, that's huge. And it was a fantastic event. It was just really, really enjoyable. So, and I've heard that a lot. So.
I have to tell you that I was very sad that I couldn't be here. I had to go to a conference, but hopefully, God willing, this year I will be here.
Commissioner Ramirez and I keep missing each other's events that we're a part of, but we'll get our calendars together.
Yes.
Okay, then I guess we'll move to item number 10, which is presentation by Mark on the creation of an Arts Influence and Awareness Panel.
Okay, so responding to some of your concerns from last meeting, I wanted to put together what I've coined 5 pathways of arts influence and awareness, and I met with the Adams Hub in putting together the template for this. And these are really 5 principles, long-term principles that will guide us to the next level. I think marketing and promotion is one element, but I don't want to put all of our eggs in that one basket because I think there's a lot of work that can be done among us all. And so this is also an opportunity for me, after being here for 1 year, to really point out the mentors that I want to learn from. People that I'm impressed from a local, regional, and state standpoint, and people that I have offered to help. So all the names that you've seen here, they're in it, and I thank them for that. And so let me just go through this. Number 1 would be commissioner profile and engagement. And so the topic of this would really define, who we are. Is Brian still here? Brian left. When I went to the Carson Valley Arts Council, they have our master plan. They had it there. So let's not be fooled that what we're doing is not being watched by others, just as I go out and watch what other people are doing. But let's clearly define our goals of the individual commissioners. What's our local awareness? I put together a Facebook page. I'll show it to you later for the Cultural Commission. Let's have that as an avenue of awareness. The commissioners in Reno actually have a group portrait. How do we get your faces in front of people so that we know that we give out money for art, so that we know that there's people? Come on. And the guest panelist for that would be Nettie Oliverio, and she is if you've heard of me going to the Reno Arts Consortium meeting, she's the founder of that. She's a board member of their Arts and Culture Commission. She's on the board of the Little Theater in Reno. A fantastic person. I think it was Edon that just named her this year Person of the Year. She's a notable person, a good friend of mine, and she's more than welcome to come down and speak to us. And Iris will sync up with you so we don't reach a quorum. I don't want to have all these great meetings be stifled by having postings and that sort of stuff. But I'll work with you, and we'll see who needs to sit in on what. Okay. The second thing would be events and activities, and here we're really talking about a calendar to achieve concrete and achievable outcomes. What's our marketing strategy for actually attending and hosting and sponsoring events? When we put together an event, where does that fall on the calendar of what our neighbors are doing? And when we go to these things, just as I go to all these events, we're ambassadors. So it's leaning on you to help me do my job. I go out and I find out what's going on, and I bring fantastic people here. And I call them up to the microphone when they're not expecting it. But that communication information can definitely help me and help the community as well. So that guest panelist, I reached out to Tony Manfredi. He's a new ED at the Nevada Arts Council. Of course, he has a background working at KNPB, marketing there. And Mary Ellen Kolchak is a new Chief Marketing Officer for the Nevada Department of Tourism. And David Peterson signed off on this, and he's very excited to create more city and state collaboration and communication. They know what's going on. Commissioner Gary, as you know, when you put that magazine together, there's a lot of good facts in there that we could all learn from. The third pathway is community development, and this is where I'm going to really lean upon the people who live and work here. Sharon Ross, Ellie Bugley, Gina Hill have all agreed to be on Star. I'm going to ask you to join us. Sherry or Bobby, I'd like for you to join us too. And this is really how to create our inventory here. How do we get more people into these seats? How do I personally get in touch with arts and organizations that I've been unable to get a hold of? This is going to spread the message, spread the word, and it helps us all. Under that category, do we need a monthly MailChimp? Do we need a monthly publication? What are the contents of that going to be? Who sends it out? That sort of stuff. We have to keep our communication constant and consistent. Number 4 is communication and asset management, and this is really the ongoing strategy for maintaining our website, the CTA website, the app. when a gallery or an arts organization changes their hours or their dates, what's the process for keeping up on that so the visitors who come here are well informed? How do we balance the marketing that we do to everyone to make sure that everyone feels they're being well represented? And for that, I would bring to our office Amanda Horn, who's the Director of Communications at the Nevada Art Museum. Amanda spoke at the NAC's Art in the Heart in Las Vegas. Her husband's a videographer who has worked for our office frequently. She really minds the details. She knows the details are how well you can judge how something is made. And I'm happy to have her join us. Of course, the last one is brand identity. And based upon all the above, what's the style guide? What's the logo? What's the font? What's the letterhead? What's our hashtag? What's the return of investment on what we're going to ask, this is later on in the agenda, grant recipients to plug us so we can plug them. It's really building a network of communication, of reciprocity. And, again, these 5 things are, I think, principles that we can use here on. And I think we'll always have to go back to these things and tune them up, but I think this is a really good start. I've also included, and this is at the door as well, 2018 calendar of events. I reached out to everyone I knew, and don't be offended if your event's not on there. But what I really wanted was like annual events. It's color coded, so we have.
Mark, I think we don't need one.
It's not in there? Okay. Let me see if there's some extra at the door. It's, how many do we need up there? Okay.
You guys don't even know.
So we didn't print out enough, but anyone who's in the audience that wants it, I'll give you my email address and I can send it to you tomorrow morning. So the 2018 calendar of events are annual events. I don't want to know every music concert, every art show, every busker on every corner. What I want are annual events from arts and culture organizations, and what I color-coded them so that they're local influencers, regional influencers, and state influencers. We also have local non-art influencers, and these are larger items like, let's say, I think the Sheriff's Office put together that, like the Night Out on Mills Park, a large event that needs to be on our radar, but it's not an arts and culture event. The local influencers in the reds are things that I think we, meaning me and the Cultural Commission, really need to have our hands in. We really need to attend. We really need to support. On the regional, influencers, maybe under commissioner profiles of these 5 pathways, maybe commissioners would oblige going to one of these regional events once a month or one every 2 months. And of course, state influencers are things that I would continue to do and trying to wrangle what we're doing here in Carson City as a capital. And examples of that would be Arts Advocacy Day in Washington, D.C. Also noted are some state Travel Nevada Rural Marketing Grant deadlines, American for the Arts conferences, Burning Man's even on there. So, I think this calendar is something, whenever I update it, I put the date on there, but I think this is something that we really need in our back pocket to plan our next event that we want to do, but also to throw out our net of communication and reciprocity to all of our neighbors and support, So please see me if you're in the audience and you want to get a copy of that calendar. I can give you that tomorrow. And which commissioners did not have that in their envelope? Okay.
But I've got this one, so.
Well, that belongs here.
Oh, that belongs to
So Mark, you probably just want to upload that to the website tomorrow
Okay.
so that
everybody
It
has
was,
access to
it was added, Chris told me she added it as late materials, so it should be on that H drive.
You think it's on the website right now?
I do believe so.
Okay, just as long as we can just alert
So
that.
I'll check right now.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So is this time for me to jump in?
Yes,
Real
thank you.
quick on the scheduling? So, I mean, clearly, because February's next month, it looks like there's a lot of stuff going on in February. Now, if we looked at what the calendar looked like in February 2019, it'd probably look real small right now, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a year out. But, and also what I hear you asking us is to, between us, rotate and be present at as many of these as we can between us.
I think that would help educate us all, because later on in the agenda, I think one of the requirements I want to put on our grant recipients is that they invite us, that they invite you, that they email all of us, or maybe they email me, and so we get that invitation. So yes.
September looks really thin.
Well, again, these are annual events, so these events will be on the calendar next year. For
Right.
example, annual auctions, annual masquerades, annual fundraisers, brouhaha. Yeah.
And I know that the idea all along was to do this our major fundraiser every other year, so that we're not creating dizzying amounts of work for you 9 months every year. So clearly this September we're talking about February and beyond.
February 2019 and beyond. Yeah.
One thing about September is quite a few are coming back from Burning Man, so.
Well, that's Labor Day weekend. I mean, I'm just looking at
Re-entry.
how full the calendar looks and then how light. Yeah, I mean, people are on vacation over the summer. It also depends. My pro for Nevada Day or around Nevada Day weekend is that we've got so many people out of town here right then. Joel, can I ask, are there other times when we've got a lot of people in town from out of town that we can capture?
Yeah, when you look at September and you're talking about maybe, for the record, sorry, Joel Dunn, NV Consulting, representing the CTA board. September's full of events. In fact, there's 47 events so far that were announced to the CTA board last week that are not on this. So there are a lot of different opportunities. In fact, the majority of the weekends from May through early October, our occupancy in Carson City and all of the top properties jump up to 90+%. So there's always a window of opportunity of engaging visitors in activities. So yeah, certainly, and Mark will know that through the calendar of working with new events, so not a problem.
And just wearing the CTA hat, there's that shoulder season thing, and where you want to be bumping up activities and bringing people in at times of the year when maybe they wouldn't be here. And so it's increasing that tourism as well. So that's just a thought. And the idea of Mardi Gras just seems like, with the costume idea, perfect. Yeah. And maybe it's recycled costumes.
Ooh, I like that.
That's a good idea.
I agree. One of the challenges that we've faced over the last 5 years, I mentioned we had 47 different events that were announced. The majority of those are outdoor activities, ranging anything from sporting events, certainly a lot of cultural events wrapped into there that you have on your calendar. Those shoulder seasons are difficult because you're trying to attract our target markets, which are, the Sacramento, San Francisco region, and to get them over the mountain. But we do have a target market that's already here that are skiing, and they're here visiting the region. So if you can look at new events coming in that shoulder season, the shoulder season for us is October, late October through May. So it'd be a perfect opportunity.
And Kyle, I'm going to ask you to put on your Brewery Arts Center hat for just a sec. I know that in the last 6 years, you've held the Winter Wine and Jazz thing in late February. So what's going on with that?
So after last year, we had moved the Winter Wine, which is our big fundraiser for the year, to the campus of the Brewery Arts Center, and decided to use a festival-style scheduling. Okay, so what that means is similar to Capital Collage, working with a number of different artists from all over the city, putting them in different locations throughout the campus, and then essentially throwing an amazing party. It was a lot of hard work, and it did not produce a lot of money. And the main thing that we figured out is that when you've got that festival scheduling and people are in different places throughout the campus, you don't have that moment like the Boys and Girls Club Luau has, or Concert Under the Stars has, where you have a live auction, which really is a moneymaker. I mean, silent auctions don't make large amounts of money. So, when you consider the amount of work that went into it, with the payoff that went into it, we're looking at other options for big annual fundraisers at the Brewery Arts Center. So we have no plans on doing a Winter Wine and All That Jazz in February.
And Terry, just as a thought process, and I'm glad you bring up the live auction part of this, as difficult as it can be, I mean, that was a $64,000 fundraiser for the Greenhouse Project this last year with the concert. So that's a lot of money to help forward the arts. Yeah. So, that's what I'm looking at in terms of an event. And you have a more captive audience if you have to have it inside. So that's my thought process, that I think that perhaps, we want to look to a winter event where, everybody's having a great time with that feeling that Capital Collage had, which was tremendous, but then having that captive audience to where you can glean some funds that we can utilize for the arts outside of the RAC district.
And I'd like to add to that one and congratulations to the Brewery Arts Center with the Levitt Music Award again. There'll be 6 concerts, and it is a fundraiser for the Brewery Arts Center in its own way, but it has dates, it has times, and we need to add that into the whole mix here, because I think there's great potential in that too. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that if we start planning a major art fundraiser in February, that the Brewery Arts Center also has space and time to do their own.
Yeah, no, thank you for thinking of us and considering that, Terry, but as of right now, the calendar's open and it would not be competing with anything that we're doing at that time. In regards to the shoulder season, this is the shoulder season. Usually falls after the holidays, so January, February, March. And so anything that could fill that calendar would be a good idea.
Sharon Ross, would you like to step up and say a word?
CCAI, and I would anticipate some of the other organizations that are in process of writing grants for fiscal 19. In that same process, we're also in the setting dates. So there will be dates coming for September, but setting these calendars are all driven by these grant deadlines, and so we're all in process. So things will be filling in that aren't in there now. So also, according to Google, Mardi Gras in 2019 is March 5th. So we will be adding things. Thank you.
I just want to add, while there's a lull in the discussion, that the events list that Mark has is on the Visit Carson City website. If you go to the Cultural Commission meeting for tonight's date and scroll down to late information, it is listed on there. And so you can download it directly from the site if you want to.
All right. Anything else, Mark, on that item?
No, just, with that calendar and just some of the, those 5 pathways it's going to be a little bit more sweat equity on the commission's efforts. Maybe we'll table it now and bring it back again, ruminate about it. Eventually I want to get more skin in the game on the visitors bureaus that we are culling these artists from. maybe the burden is off my back and they bring someone that they elect or that they represent. Problem there is the artists that I represented there, it wasn't necessarily a gallery wall installation. It was a temporal, not all art translates to that.
Commissioners, any last comments? No? Parting shots? Okay. Item number 11 is discussion and possible action, and that's presentation FY 18 and 19 RAC Special Event Grants Program updates.
So, as you know, or as some cultural commissioners might not have participated in yet, every year the RAC.
Sorry, just for the audience's clarification, RAC is the Redevelopment Authority of Carson City.
They allot a certain amount of money for the Cultural Commission to make recommendations for arts and cultural events by organizations within the redevelopment district, and there's a map of that on the carson.org website of where those locations are. It includes, let's say the library to the courthouse to Carson Mall and other areas. The application online is dated, and I reached out to Lee and I said I wanted to put together a workshop to revise the application. I reached out to applicants for their input on how to make it more user-friendly. I also, as an artist who has written and applied for grants myself, put into words what was not there but assumed. I want to clean it up and make it real. And then by doing that, I want to have more exposure to it. I don't really want it to be hidden on the website. I want artists, art organizations to know about it. And of course, a couple months ago, perhaps it was last year, I brought up the idea of actually having, in addition to arts organizations, an individual artist allotment of around $1,000. And that's how we plant seeds to get stuff cooking. So, the goal is, really to develop year-round marketing strategies to support the arts and its grantees, to increase number of grant applicants, to solicit proposals that reflect diversity, ingenuity, to build Carson City's Cultural Commission's presence in Northern Nevada, and build Carson City's profile as an innovative arts community in Northern Nevada. On February 21, from 11 to 1 p.m., and February 22, from 5 to 7 p.m., I'm going to be holding a workshop to go over some things I'm going to put out in front of you for discussion and action. These are, it's not any jarring language. I don't think it would shock or throw anyone into confusion, but I'm going to have a workshop. The NAC is going to partner. We're going to see what kind of state monies might be available to our Carson City entities, and we'll see how much money we can pour into the local arts here. On the special events grants update, which should be in your package, and it's also at the door, I wanted to put into words what actually is supported under theater, music, and visual arts. And, example of arts and culture experiences include but are not limited to the following: performance, dance, film, video, media, folk arts, music, opera, theater, poetry, visual arts, crafts, murals, outdoor installations. I think the more we can detail what we are looking for, the more we can get people interested. If we put it out there, we'll accept mural proposals because it's under visual art. Why not? Available fiscal year 19 to 20 would be the awards to individual artists. So I would propose that we table it for one more year. One of the, in my presentation, you'll see one of the difficulties I'm having is people coming and wanting to exhibit art, indoor art, small art, but where are we going to put it? All these pieces of documentation from our Nevada Day parade, a parade of arts and entertainment, where is it going to go? You know, Sharon has done a fantastic job of carving out spaces here in public buildings, but Carson City does not have a namesake, for lack of better words, white box dedicated to that. And wouldn't it be nice that we could send our visitors to that to have something to eat and go down the street and see that? It could, you know. So I wanted to also specify organization eligibility. Organizations must have active leadership that meets to determine and review policy. Organizations must have an active website with a posted mission statement, as well as some type of social media presence. And this is when we get into, you scratch my back, I scratch yours, and we have a hashtag that follows this RAC grant, and they're obligated to post that and to tag the Cultural Commission Facebook website. And Kyle will present some other CTA packages I want to propose in that as well. Organizations must have existed at least 1 year in proven efforts of mission. The free CTA promotional package, I want to make sure that all grant recipients are awarded equal exposure on media posts and photography and printing postcards and posters and that sort. As well as that might, if they don't have to spend that on printing, maybe they can put that money towards their performance or towards their show or towards what it is that they're doing. Also recommending that an organization might submit for several projects, but total awards for one organization, such as what you voted for last year for Sierra Nevada Ballet, is under $5,000 for one organization. So, for example, you could win $3,000 for one ballet show, for example, $2,000 for another. But that one organization maximum would be $5,000. And you know, a couple months ago when I brought this up to you, I've done the research of all of the decision making that was done long before I got here, and the mean is about $5,000 for these organizations. I want to include a final report, something that can give us some actuals to the anticipated data that they put in their application. No one under 18 years of age. The applicant organization cannot be a public school or state agency. None of this language is in there right now. This is standard language for any type of grant. Other things that might jump out would be no student scholarships or regranting programs. I want to make sure that the money you dedicate is to the project that you see the portfolio of, and not someone else's. Stipends to artists are permissible. For example, I'll go back to the ballet. The ballerinas and the performers were stipend. You know, this money's not for major equipment purchases or capital improvements. Nothing to create a new LLC or 501c. Nothing like that for legal fees. Also fundraisers. I thought was an important one to put up there. And finally, entertainment costs. Listen, we all like wine and cheese at these parties, but we want to make sure that that money is spent actually on the art. Yeah. And then finally, I wanted to put forth some scoring criteria. I know that you worked with Vern and the NAC on putting some stuff together. You know, the NAC has about a dozen grants that they do year-round. I wanted to make some streamlined funding criteria that applicants could understand, because this language, again, does not exist on the application that they send in to you, but also something that makes it easy for you to grade them on. And it's basically 6 things. Artistic merit. Proposal achieves quality and value based upon creativity, ingenuity, or talent. Second one is clarity of application, narrative, and budget. Vision and direction evokes an understanding and enthusiasm. You clearly understand the numbers. You clearly understand what they want to do. Third one is demonstrated community support or investment in the project proposal. This is where it can plug into the local RAC businesses, back into the community. Audience benefit derived from the project. So the proposal has an audience outreach benefit or new audience engagement. Those are 2 separate things. So, you know, community support is your neighbors around the event. Audience benefit is who goes to the event. Non-duplication of similar or past projects. This is just simply to get more miles out of more bang for the buck. Originality of concept and work, and the likelihood for it to produce growth for the organization. Finally, clearly defined ability to successfully complete the project. We have a lot of organizations that apply. They're hitting home runs, and that history will influence your opinion on them.
So Mark, how does that how does that fit in with the item right above that, which is non-duplication of similar projects? So if it's a successful event that everybody likes.
You could kick it up one to the next sentence. Maybe it's a different audience. Maybe it's a different demographic that they're reaching. Maybe it's a different business partner that they're partnering with for the project.
Different artists?
Yeah.
Because...
Or maybe those artists are from a different area.
Okay.
Or maybe there's a different method to market their event.
Because there are some grantees that come back year after year. Their projects are maybe slightly different, but it's the same overall jazz festival or ongoing, rotating art exhibits in specific rooms around town. So,
that has the opportunity for the organization to break tradition and do something new, to look at their own programming. So, there's two things: the success of the programming, their history of continued grant funding. But how can they throw another ingredient in that pot and mix it up to make it very tasty?
It makes sense because, the criteria was to try and wean people away unless they were doing something different.
Thank you for mentioning that, because this is my effort in trying to make sure that we maintain these monies, because as you know, it wasn't that long ago that the money for this year by year was going down to zero, and we finally got it stabilized for the next 5 years at 25 grand. So this is our opportunity for me to go to bat and say that we're doing something about that. Finally, on the last page, it's a flow chart of redevelopment special event grants. It's a little confusing. I'm often repeating it. It goes to this group, then to this group. This lays out who does what where their application goes. And then it's also going to say, how do they get reimbursement? I'm not writing checks for them. They have to go to, Lee Plummel's office. And, again, none of this language is in there. And I think I've shared it with his office, and I've shared it, with RAC. And I was advised to me that this is a modification that we can do here internally. And I'm going to go over this in greater detail at the workshops, and I've had a lot of response from people saying that they're going to attend them.
Well, so another thing you mentioned briefly was that the Culture and Tourism Authority would be providing free promotional materials. How does that come out of your 1% room tax piece?
Where does it come from?
We had spoken about this when you were the ED full-time, and that the marketing for arts and culture event would go under marketing for the Visitors Bureau, CTA.
Yep. Speaking on when we have a chance to market an event, whether it's in its first year, second year, if there's an opportunity for that cultural event to turn into heads and beds, then it certainly justifies the use of the room tax dollars outside of the 1%. So that's kind of that justification that we use. A little bit later, I think you'll see that we market quite a bit in all the special events. This isn't really new. It's something that we started doing back 4.5 years ago. When I took over the Bureau back in 2013, we realized that we really were leading ourselves into operating into the red. And we were writing checks to every single event that came into town. And rather than continuing that pattern, we decided that we would take on the onus of creating the posters and creating it, which also gave us the consistency in how we branded ourselves. It's been extremely well received by events. The majority of every event in Carson City, we're giving a stack of 100, 200 posters at a time. They're rack cards. If they have a ticketing, we handle their ticketing side, and we do all of that at no cost, which then saves us the instead of writing a check for $500. So it's the same thing, and we're going to, and I'm sure Kyle will touch on it, but when somebody is a recipient of one of these grants, they're going to know exactly how we're going to help them market themselves. Yeah.
So Kyle Horvath, Marketing Manager, for the record. Some of the things that we had come up with, and again, this isn't out of the blue. We've been doing this for events and organizations who've been doing tourism-related stuff for us for a while, but it's nice to clearly define it so when you're going into something, you know what's expected of you and what's not. And let's be honest, there are other grants that we apply for that have this type of information that's in it, so why would we not add it into our own grant? So some of the things that we had come up with just in the short term, and again, this is flexible between now and the time that it goes in there, but of course, through Visit Carson City, we'll make at least one social post per recipient of the grant announcing their receipt. That'll be on all of our Facebook and Twitter accounts and things like that. So that'll get that out immediately, announcing that they've received the grant. As usual, we're going to work with the recipient to design and print branded collateral, and what we're thinking is 2 pieces built to suit. So not just saying, oh, we'll do a 4x6 and an 8x10, actually getting into the artist, and maybe what's required for promotional materials might be a bookmark sized up to a booklet or whatever. We don't want to limit what we're offering, but what we're saying is we would like to work with the artist to build 2 pieces of branded collateral for print that they can use and we can use for marketing of their event, starting out with no less than 100 pieces printed with the option to reprint throughout the course of the term, as necessary. Now, one of the requirements of the grantees would be, of course, to tag Visit Carson City in any of their posts relating to the progress of the grant. So we commit to sharing any of those posts where we're tagged about the progress of the grant on our social media as well. So as long as they're tagging us, then we'll be able to help them out through the process. Also doing post announcing when the show or event actually will be. So getting that out into the community, helping them build a Facebook event that we can go ahead and share, that we can post into. I'm really big into teaching people how to fish. You can only hold someone's hand for so long. So offering social media advice and workshops and things like that so that they can be empowered through that marketing tool and then being able to share their stuff easily. Inclusion of the show or event, of course, on the Visit Carson City calendar as well as the app calendar. And then we would provide photography from one of our professional photographers at the event or final project for use and future promotion for the artist. So again, creating content and a lot of the times the content that's taken at that event is really beneficial in the following year, for that artist to go and promote further projects. So those are some of the things that Mark and I had worked on, and Joel, and so we think it's definitely not out of the realms of what we already do, but again, it's nice to clearly define what you get when you receive a grant.
And of course, the objective here is not to push away our arts organizations that have been contributing to Carson City year after year after year. But it's really to support them. I think the better we can define it is what we're doing, the better it is that we can advertise what it is that we're doing. I think there's more validity to it, more presence to it. I was speaking with Sharon. Sharon's organization just celebrated its 15th year anniversary, and so I was going to ask her to share her honest thoughts on this process, as well, because, again, I want the feedback of the organizations on this.
Would you like to? Thank you, Sharon Ross. The idea of completely reinventing ourselves every year makes me panic. We can't. CCAI has got 2 part-time people and a hardworking board of 6 right now, and a very small budget. We change our exhibitions every year. I have fiscal 19 outlined right here. We're very excited about what we're doing. But we are planning to still do 3 exhibitions with essays at the courthouse, 3 exhibitions in this room, 3 to 4 at the Brick, all education programs, and 4 Nevada Neighbors. So they'll all change. They're all integrated. We're very excited about how we've got them integrated for fiscal 19. But to completely, and arts and education continues as well. We aim for serving 700 students a year, which really has us at our max as far as staff time.
Yours does change all the time.
Oh, thank you.
It does. All the time.
Thank you.
Not to worry, Sharon.
Okay, thank you. But
I was
adding a whole new program.
It's not a new program. I was just telling Sharon, I was like, well, you know, I'm supposed to be the first Carson City person to speak at your Nevada Neighbors. That's growth. You know, maybe non-duplication is the wrong word. Maybe it's an evolution. Maybe it's showing an intent of evolution. How's that sound?
And I'm just going to throw this out there. It occurs to me that the reimagined space, this building is in the redevelopment district. That lobby is begging for help.
Yeah.
Can we reimagine that space?
I went in there with Vern Cron a couple of years ago and looked at it, and with all those glass walls and the cement block walls, and I was talking about, well, if you want to commission a big hanging sculpture in the middle of the ceiling, it would be great. And then I said to him, well, you guys have a budget? Because your artist needs to be paid, and the city would need to help with installation and purchasing so it stopped when I said artists needed to be paid.
There is money there, the reimagined space. We have a grant, and I'm just thinking about Cindy's parasols, and oh my God, they would be beautiful, suspended from the ceiling. And you know, there's some things that we could be doing to reimagine.
With great love, Thelma Calhoun's beautiful drawings have been up there. I've lived here 40 years. I think they've been there 40 years. So, and I'm amazed they haven't faded. That's amazing. But maybe they could go into a booklet or something. Anyway, okay, thank you for...
Chair McBride, so, you know, does the commission want to look at, instead of non-duplication, an intent of evolution, or...
Yeah, evolution, that's a good word. Can I make I would like to make a comment here. When I hear about all of this and how exciting this all is, I think to myself, well, Kyle, you're an octopus. This is huge. Mark, Kyle, you know, Joel, this is enormous in terms of if you're really going to, we can address all of these issues and have a very exciting calendar that's out there and so on. Yeah, it's going to take money, it's going to take personnel, it's going to take effort, and it's going to take bringing it all together so that it's in sequence and we know what's going on. And I don't know, is there an intent to sort of bring a schematic or a something that says what you're going to be doing and when it's going to happen and all that good stuff? It may be another agenda item, but at some point, you know, I just worry for, you know, do you have to hire 5 more people who are going to be helping? Because this is huge, what you're talking about here. This is a lot that we're putting out there.
See how huge the effort is here in a few moments, and we've only got intention of growing bigger and bigger, so...
Okay, well...
Yeah.
Okay, so that's going to mean there's going to have to be more budget, more monies, and more expenditures. So I just want to put that out there.
Yeah, you know, we've got a couple of things that, an opportunity of me coming back under contract for the CTA. One of the first things I'm doing is finishing a strategic plan that we've been working on. And a great part of that, although it's a strategic plan for the tourism aspect of the CTA, a greater portion of that strategic plan is going to be based on the cultural aspects and the cultural value of our community. Earlier, we were talking about the Stewart Indian School. When we went through the stakeholders meeting, which was the first segment of that SWOT analysis for the strategic plan, one of the things that just continued to come up throughout our discussion with, I don't know, there was 20 to 30 stakeholders in the room, and the Adams Hub facilitator was a fantastic process. One of the top valued assets of this community for tourism was the Stewart Indian School. So what you're going to find is in that strategic plan, we identify a lot of different performance measures, and I'll be bringing back a perspective of how I think the CTA should look at possible funding. And I certainly hope that through the transition of Supervisor About and myself, that somehow we're still a part of this in 5 to 6 years when we have a portion of room tax that is currently funding the bonding of the V&T Railroad. That would be an absolute perfect fit for the CTA Board through this strategic plan to allocate some ongoing funding to that effort. Now, another one of the projects that was included in the scope of work is trying to help Mark with whatever he needs to help facilitate the same type of a process through Mark's stakeholders, your stakeholders, and the community for a strategic plan for cultural arts. So, yeah, it definitely is in the works. One of the greatest things, Mark's calendar, you look at that and it's just kind of overwhelming. And then you add to it the other 47 events and it becomes more overwhelming. And one of the goals of that strategic plan, one of the top priorities of the CTA is to develop a community calendar. And so that will be in the works. I know Kyle always talks about the calendar. It is a huge undertaking, and it does take staff time, and it does take money, and we have all of that within the CTA. So, yeah, perfect.
Well, and so to wrap up the RAC, the updates on the RAC special events funding, unless the commissioners have any more comments on what Mark put together, thank you again for proposing for the guidelines for the applicants to follow, and then the criteria that we'll use this year, I suppose, as we go through the applications and make our decisions on our recommendations. So if nobody else has any comments, we can make a motion.
I motion that the Carson City Cultural Commission accepts advised updates to include proposed grant criteria, including the changes we discussed here tonight, evaluating scoring rubrics, and the public grant workshops for its RAC special events grants fiscal year 18-19 as presented.
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion approved.
Thank you, and I will be working closely with our organizations that we hold dear to make sure that the transition is easy.
Get 'em.
And thanks to the public audience that provided input on that item as well.
Yeah. Wow. It's ambitious.
Okay. Okay, number 12 is discussion and possible action to elect a chair and a vice chair for the Carson City Cultural Commission.
I'll make a nomination. I'd like to nominate Terry McBride for chair and Barbara Dianeo for vice chair for another term if they're so willing.
I would like to second that.
So now we make a motion?
It's been moved and seconded.
Okay.
All in favor?
So all in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to thank all of you, as well as Commissioner Nagel and Bugley, who are not here tonight, for your service. Let's see. We just had a presentation in front of the Board of Supervisors. We're lucky to have people in the community that are eager to join us, and we're going to tap those people in other manners to help inform and enlighten our conversation. I want to thank you personally. I know you went to a lot of hairy meetings that one summer putting together that master plan. And I know it doesn't come easy, but I look to you guys as my team, and so thank you.
Thank you. It's a privilege to serve, and I really enjoy working with this commission and the arts community. So thanks.
I concur.
So non-action items, 13A is a report from Mark Salinas.
Okay, thanks for your patience so far. Here we go. The Michelle Riley Da Vinci update. Everything is in place. We installed some lights thanks to Briggs Electric and Castanelli Landscape. We actually have had some wildlife come through here. I saw some deer hoof prints through there. So let it be known that Carson City artwork attracts wildlife. We got a wild art scene, maybe that's what we'll say. But look, we also had some trash. I was there the other weekend. You know, the wind gets so, strong. Press pause on this moment because I was actually out there the other day looking for signage. I want to avoid a concrete, a pole, and a metal sign. So I'm waiting to hear back from Parks and Rec on putting some vinyl on the window, something like this. That way people who use the ADA ramp, people who attend events at night can read about Michelle, read about the piece. And I also propose maybe there's one replaceable adhesive credit line saying, like, for example, sculpture lawn maintained by Boy Scout troop something, Rotary group something. Wouldn't that be interesting? To tie the neighborhood into community service as well as keeping our new sculpture looking
Mark,
good.
are those signs too far away from the piece, though? Are people going to figure out to go over there?
At that size, I think they'll draw people to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to go look.
The LED sign, Tara's work on it. Benvenuto a Carson City. Then immediately afterwards, that's what we're going to have. So I asked Tara to send that to Eric, I think yesterday. So we'll see. Public sculpture has the capability of becoming public landmarks for social intervention, artistic intervention, humanitarian interventions. And as I was there the other weekend, I saw a scarf tied to the pole. And this is what it said: "This is not lost. It's here if you need a snuggly friend from the cold to keep." So here we are, someone who actually chose Michelle's piece as a landmark to make a sort of a humanitarian effort. As small as it is, I thought it was absolutely amazing. The Reno Philharmonica asked me to be part of their Evolution Task Force, and I love accepting these offers because, all the art organizations nationwide, there's two things: funding and how do we get new audiences without losing our old. And honestly, whether you're selling wine or widgets, I think that's the argument at hand. But it gives me an opportunity to problem solve some of the things that we discuss here. So I thank them for inviting me to this. ArtSpot Reno also reached out to us wanting a tour about town, what's going on here in Carson City. And so they turned to Instagram and posted some of the work behind me here. We also you met Abner Rivera, remember him? He came. Tell us about his mural. This is a facing mural in that alley, and also Bryce's mural at the BAC. So these are the arts and cultural organizations of Reno. These are big names. In the past 4 months, these are the organizations that have hit us up wanting to collaborate, wanting to do something in Carson City. This tells us a lot. I think we're on the right track here. December 15th, of course, if you're in the audience, we don't serve popcorn to this, I'm sorry. This is the closest thing we got to Netflix. But the Cultural Commission meets every other month. So my presentations are about 60 days. It's the past month and then up to the date of the meeting. So on December 15th, WNC hosted the Christmas Posada. Commissioner Ramirez was behind this. I think it was another home run, working with the Latino cohort group at Western Nevada College, dance, cultural dress. I thank Jeff Munson for picking up that. I think it was in Carson now and writing about it. Of course, it's not complete with Lupe unless there's really good food and drink. I was contacted by the Neon Museum in Las Vegas. So they have a second annual Boneyard Ball. So here's an organization that has a fundraiser. It's their second year, right? They're also celebrating the Las Vegas Convention and Tourism Bureau for contributions to the arts. So I'm going to be attending this and doing some heavy-duty research. As you know, my colleague, Allie, who works at City Hall, is leading the commission through their celebration of 30 years. So FYI, the Carson City Cultural Commission, I think it's, you have to look at that calendar, July 21st, it's your 10-year anniversary. Been around here 10 years. So I'm going to be speaking to Allie about the who, what, when, and where of working with her commission, how she navigates the system of all the departments that she has to work with. They're also going to be reopening the Charleston Heights Art Center. This was under development for a long time. We're going to be kicking off. This is an event space, exhibition space that the city owns. It's also a great opportunity for me to discuss with my fellow board members of the Nevada Arts Council that live there, putting together a possible exchange between two visitors bureaus, north and south. An artist exchange, an exhibition exchange. I think there's room for growth there, and I think the Nevada Arts Council might be interested in hearing some proposals. Of course, while I'm going to be there, this is big news. This is Christopher Hoy. He is the U.S. Marshal for the state of Nevada, and I have an appointment to meet with him because he has graciously agreed to come to Carson City and be one of our guest presenters for our True Grit presentation. And if you're not familiar with True Grit, John Wayne played a debauched marshal who was hired by a young girl to avenge the murder of her father in a card game. Mr. Hoy is a fantastic motivator. I think I'm actually going to bring him to the Boys and Girls Club too. I mean, I've watched some videos on him. He's an amazing, eloquent, generous individual, and I'm so happy that he's going to be coming here to tell us what Marshals of 2018 do. And just FYI, Obama was the one who nominated him to his post 8 years ago. As Fred had mentioned, I was a fly on the wall there at their board meeting, and I was going to mention the renovation, but you did a good job at that. But I'm happy to be working with them, and FYI, they're going to be celebrating their 40th year anniversary next year. Brian was here earlier from Carson Valley Arts Council. You know, their building is sort of like the BAC of Carson a bit. You know, this is the interior shot. They actually have plans to do a 500-seat theater in there. And of course, they have a gift store, and it's really nice. And I'm happy that we're on their radar. One of the conundrums I had mentioned was, you know, where are we going to put this artwork when we buy it? Not 7.5-ton art pieces of art, smaller stuff. But here we have Quest Lakes, who has a piece already made that she wants to loan us. So that's another circumstance that we have to prepare ourselves for. This is a beautiful clipper that's made by driftwood, and there's even carpenter pencils in there and stuff. On January 17th, I applied for the Ely Leadership Program. This is a group that's comprised of Polynesian, Native American, African American, and Hispanic non-for-profit organizations whose sole purpose is to create fluidity among their cultures, within our cultures, you know. And I applied for this scholarship program. We'll see if I get it. It's all expenses paid, and it's a very immersive program in understanding each culture. And you know, just as I put together a sort of a list of mentors for the 5 pathways of arts and influence, you know, this is a learning opportunity for me to take what I'm to up my ante here for Carson City. I was happy to see the collaboration between the Capital City Arts Initiative and the International Film Festival. You can't see her, but that's Linda Belgrade in there. And I introduced her to Nettie Oliverio, who's one of the mentors I had mentioned. This is her RAC presentation.
No, Reno Consortium.
Well, she calls it RAC, though, Reno Arts Consortium, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Another RAC. Don't get it confused with the other RAC. So many RACs. But so usually at these meetings, I'm absorbing and relaying info. But going forward, I'm going to reach out to our local arts orgs and see what they want me to bring to Reno, so I can start passing out what they do. Thank you to Chair McBride and Vice Chair Dineo for attending the State of the City with me the other night. at the Pioneer Center for the Performing Arts. This was the State of the City for Reno. I've never been to the State of the City, where the Reno Jazz Orchestra was there. The Sierra Nevada Ballet was there. Reno Controlled Burn was there. The Notables AVA Ballet. It was a wonderful opportunity to see the impact of arts economically throughout the city. And then just the other day, my colleague James Salanoa and I went across the street to the Nevada Art Museum and spoke to Rachel Delovio. She's the anthropology manager there. And we're putting together what might be called a Lay Day festivities in April 28th. A couple of pieces need to fall into place to make this happen, but it'd be a celebration of Polynesian and Hawaiian culture. So I reached out to, as I mentioned, I went to Honolulu for the West Staff Conference. I reached out to a city and state arts agency there to see if we can share the marquee together, if they can loan us some items and actually have a Nevada-Hawaii collaboration.
There is a Nevada-Hawaii connection, actually. It's informal, but Hawaiians like to vacation in Las Vegas. They like coming to Nevada. They all know about Nevada when you go.
That's because we have James Salanoa. Finally, some articles on arts and culture. I just want to put this on your radar. Travel Nevada is partnering with Atlas Obscura on commissioning artists to do a traveling residency along 95. Last year, they did the same thing, which was along Highway 50. I missed the opportunity to get involved with that, but I'm going to keep my eyes open on this. And if you're an artist, feel free to apply, because this just opened up last week. I want to thank Ann Knowles for covering our last meeting, as well as putting out an end-of-the-year article on arts in Carson City, and there you see our 20-foot-long rattlesnake for true grit. I also want to put this on your radar. Churchill Arts Council, which is 65 miles away, is advertising their arts exhibitions here in Carson City. So that tells you two things. That they see that there's an audience here who loves and appreciates art, but it also tells me that we got to do the same as arts organizations and as artists to get the word out that way as well. Finally, this is the Cultural Commissioner Facebook page I put together, and I'd like to launch this and have this be something that, at the end of our meetings, we have commissioner comments and announcements, and that's where we're able to hear about the Greenhouse Project. That's where we're able to hear about the Carson Symphony. This is an opportunity to post that, as well as people to get on the bandwagon and create some buzz. Anything? That was a lot of info very quickly. Is there anything you want me to further explain? Okay. Thank you.
The marketing update is up next with Kyle.
Go ahead and plug in here really quick, and I'll be right with you guys. All right. All right, so I'm sure we're all starving at this point in time in the evening, and it's almost my 7-year-old daughter's bedtime, so I'm going to keep this brief and positive, and really there's no reason to do anything else, because this is a great presentation about what my marketing team has been able to do in the last year for the arts. So I know it's been a while since I've been here. I'll reintroduce myself in case you forgot. Kyle Horvath, Marketing Manager, and for anybody in the audience who I've not had the pleasure of meeting yet, I wanted to start out, we all know how we got to this point a year ago, so I don't need to reiterate that, but my marketing team is responsible for promoting, developing, and attracting assets in relation to tourism and quality of life. So we say at Carson City, we are a contemporary capital that is rich in history, the arts, and year-round outdoor recreation. So there are multiple pillars that we focus our attention to. So a few of them there is history, shopping, dining, events, which is a standalone full-time job, really. Outdoor recreation, which we all know has been a 4-year, multi-year effort to get to the point to where we are with outdoor recreation. And arts and culture, although we've always promoted arts and culture, this year was the first year where we actually committed to focusing on arts and culture. And I think you guys will be really pleased with the results. And I'll do at the end kind of an anecdotal one-year comparison to some of the other campaigns that were first-year results. So what we offer through room tax money and grants that we receive for different organizations and event promoters and things like that is design work, printing, social media promotion, photography, video production, website, building consultation, articles and press releases, listings on our calendar, on our app, printing tickets, ticket outlets, marketing workshops, to name a few. And if the event actually has an economic impact to warrant it, we'll defer some of the direct costs like we did with some of the events like the Nevada Day Powwow, the Lock LB Powwow, and things like that. So as you can see, we've got our hands full throughout the entire year, but what this presentation will be specifically on the arts. So I listed a few of the arts organizations that we work with hand in hand. I'll go ahead and read those off quickly. Capital City Arts Initiative, Mile High Jazz Band, Carson City Symphony, Brewery Arts Center, Nevada State Museum, Stewart Indian School, Nevada State Railroad Museum, Western Nevada Theater Company, Historical Society, Latino Cohort, Nevada Arts Council, Boys and Girls Club, La KLB Powwow, Carson City Library, Downtown Business Association, Children's Museum of Northern Nevada, Nevada Day Inc., and our local art gallery. So in some capacity, with the list of services that we talked about, we've worked with these organizations this last year, helping them accomplish their goals. 2017 was the year of content creation. I had the pleasure of giving a year in review to our board that I answer to about all the content that we were able to create. So what I did is you're going to get a kind of a percentage snapshot of how much of that was arts related or mentioned the arts. I contract with Nevada Momentum as our content creation. There's a number of different professionals that I work with, and Tara Burke and Sean Nebeker are our design team. And so out of the 140 total pieces that were designed last year, 104 pieces, 75% of them were either specifically about an arts and cultural event or cross-marketed the arts with something else. So again, when we talk about it being a contemporary capital rich in history, outdoor recreation, and the arts, a lot of our stuff that we put out mirrored that message that we're putting out there and incorporated imagery like the native dancers, Stewart Indian School, things like that. And again, that design work included posters, ads, event rack cards, announcements, the art walk guide, different booklets, tickets, and promotional items.
Kyle, can I ask you a question on that one?
Yes.
Can I just go back once? So for the magazine that's at the front door, if there were 10 articles about art, is that counted as 10 or is that counted as one piece?
If you're talking about the visitor's guide, there's, I believe, 5 articles.
But for the stat, is the magazine counted?
The magazine's one piece. Yes. Yes. And I'll elaborate on that as the presentation goes on. Articles and press releases. So this is Terry Vance. She wrote 125 pieces for us last year. 50 of those pieces were specifically about arts and culture-related stuff. Now, if you remember reading anything in Carson Now that was announcing a cultural event or anything like that and it said submitted by Terry Vance, that was actually submitted by us. That was paid for with tourism dollars and contracted through her to write that press release to get that out in the media. But it also includes feature articles and different PR campaigns that we did throughout the year as well. And then of that, there were 47 instances of regional media distribution. So 47 separate times that pieces about arts and culture were sent out to not Carson Now and Nevada Appeal, but outside of that region, so RGJ, Fallon, places like that, trying to hit more of the Highway 80 corridor to the eastern and then the Highway 50 corridor and all of those communities. We have put out, since this campaign started, actually our 3 visitors guides now, and you can see in front of you the 3rd visitors guide, which literally is still steaming off of the presses. It was delivered late last week. And so our first visitors guide that we did was arts and culture related, at least in the new format that you see there. The first visitor's guide that we did last winter was Arts and Culture. It received 2 statewide awards, one as Best Editorial Piece and one as Second Best Advertising Piece. So that was Kat Allison, and again, her team creating that with our content in a way that it was visually appealing and beneficial. We had the Visitor's Guide Summer, which had the runner on the front of it. If you look inside, there's actually more articles about the arts than there is outdoors. And then, of course, our third Visitor's Guide, which I hope you flip through, as we're talking, you'll see that it also is very heavy in our new articles that were just written. Those articles are up online on our website. And I encourage you to go in and check out how the articles are actually presented on our website. They're very visually appealing. It was a format that was inspired by Visit Norway and how they promote the Northern Lights, and I wanted to use that same format for our content as well. So again, feel free to look through that visitor's guide. We have 11,000 of them now that we distribute each year. For video, this was actually the year of video. We produced more videos this year than we have any other year. And if you look at our YouTube page, there was 24 total videos uploaded to YouTube this year. That was original content from us. And so 8 of those videos were arts and culture related. A lot of them were short little 15-second videos for outdoor recreation. So the 8 videos that were arts and culture related were a little bit more long, full-length feature videos, and that included the Nevada Day promo, the Stewart Father's Day Powwow Award video that was shown at that award ceremony, as well as the specific arts and entertainment video as well. So in addition to that, I worked on a project for the last 2 years actually called the Silver State Update, which was with Mountain Resort TV Tahoe, where they came down every other week and showcased different events or businesses or things like that. It was great outreach into the community. Unfortunately, they moved their operation to Salt Lake City, and so we're no longer creating that content here. But we look forward to the opportunities that they are broadcasting out of Salt Lake City, and we're going to be able to reach new audiences. There's a lot of Mountain Resort TV Tahoe in here. I'll let you guys know it was broadcast out of Reno, which went all of Lake Tahoe, the Front Range of California, of the Sierras, so that would be Placerville, Grass Valley area, all the way out Highway 50 and all the way out Highway 80 down to Mammoth. South. So it was a pretty large broadcast area. It was also shared on social media outlets and things like that. So back to this year's Silver State Update, I did 23 episodes this year. 16 of those episodes, well over half of them were arts and culture related. And so we really used that vehicle as a way to focus the community on coming down. Hey, next week this event is happening, come down. So that was Dia de los Muertos with Jaime, who gave us first video ever, and he did amazing. Inside the Mind of Da Vinci with Michelle Riley interview, as well as an interview with David Vugley doing Jazz and Beyond. And to listen to that man speak about jazz, I mean, he shines, man, he shines. We didn't want to turn the camera off.
So let me ask, back to the Silver State
Yes.
update. So now that they've moved to Salt Lake, we're not going to have as easy access to them? Like, they're not going to be coming to Carson City to
They're
film
not coming
videos?
down every other week with the cameras to film me talking and business people talking. So we are actually in the creative team meetings trying to figure out new ways of creating that type of video content. There's some opportunities with Sierra Nevada Media Group.
Right,
There's some opportunities.
And so you're doing more in-house videos, it sounds like, since this year was a banner year?
Absolutely, absolutely.
And so is that a trend? Is that going to continue, or?
You know, we're going to continue to produce video because video is easily shareable. It's what everybody wants to look at. So we're definitely not abandoning the original videos that we put out and the feature videos that we do. Just this one project with the Silver State Update has come to a close. We're looking for new opportunities, but we definitely took this year to promote the arts. There was a couple other projects that we did with Mountain Resort TV Tahoe. There was a Carson City Today, which was broadcast over their television viewing area, but it also received almost 1,300 views on YouTube. That had, again, it was all about Carson City, but it had a section focused on history, a section focused on the arts, where Mark was interviewed at Thai Basil, actually, outdoor recreation and all of that. So there was a feature specifically on the arts. And then the Downtown Business Association created a number of videos to promote the downtown. We paid for an 8-week run of all of those videos. There was one specifically about the arts, too. So kind of like putting them out there as commercials for in-between programs. I went up to Tahoe, did a Drew and You episode, which is, again, just another opportunity to speak on camera. I did a Wild Nevada episode where we did the Blue Line tour and got to talk. And, you know, my parents moved out here from Virginia, and they've seen my face a lot on camera. But that one they were excited about. They were like, dude, you're on Wild Nevada. Yeah, I know. And so in addition to that, on social media, really used Facebook Live a lot at the events. I mean, I attend a lot of events over the course of the year. And so the Levitt Amp concert series, Fridays on McFadden, Concert Under the Stars, all got live feeds. And that really is something that, for exposure, Facebook is moving to the top of the priority list. So we'll continue to use that. Photography. This is Kat Allison and her team. We sent her out this year on 53 photo assignments, creating 62 arts and culture related galleries. That's out of 122 galleries total that were created this year. So 52% of our photography assignments, or at least our photography assignments, resulted in about 52% arts-related images, and so that equates to over 1,000 new arts and culture images just from 2017 alone. And I'll say we've got about 1,000 from 2016 and 2015 and 14 and 13. What I want to do is I want to show you guys a slideshow that I worked with Tara Burke to create this year, grabbed some of those photos and put them to music, but we do this every single year, and it's great to look back on all the memories of what you did. And so I'm going to go ahead and show that to you. It was one of our most popular posts. You can see that there was on YouTube 331 views just since the after Christmas. On Facebook, it reached almost 7,000 people, 46 shares, 193 likes, and 4 comments. So if you'll humor me, I'd like to go ahead and show that slideshow. And I hope you guys enjoy. From Jazz and Beyond this year. The new Airstream event. One of my favorite photos from this year. Powerful photo. And a nice big finish to close. Now, I mean, I don't know how you could watch that and not be extremely proud of what our community's been able to accomplish in this year. I mean, it really brings back so many memories of what we've been able to work on and who we've been able to work with. And it was not hard to find that many spectacular art photographs to put into that. All right.
Can I just, are you all through, Kyle?
Am I almost done?
I have one question.
Yes, go ahead, Karen.
Okay, based on all, and which I love all of this, and it's fantastic, and based on Mark's priorities for this year, functions that we want to get done. Is there a way between our Tourism Authority meetings and the Culture Committee meetings to know what specific ways you're going to market and target so we can push events just as they're happening, I guess, as we're leading into them? Is there a way to do that so that we can report on it and just say, this is what we're going to be doing for this to push it?
Yeah, I mean, unspoken, we know exactly what we're doing for events, and I mean, I hope you guys understand when you're juggling so many different aspects of community development that, sometimes you're too busy doing it to have time to write it down, to explain what you're doing. But I think through increased communication and just, just the relationship continuing to get better and better every year, as relationships do, hopefully, if we're moving in the right direction, I will have a better idea, because again, I think we're so busy getting stuff done, we don't actually get the opportunity to share what we're doing very often. So opportunities like this are great because, just don't get a chance to beat our own drum sometimes,
Well, I guess what I want to eliminate is I didn't hear about it. I didn't know about it. I'm like.
So the second half of my presentation, which is coming up, is going to address that. And this is not the first time that this comment has been made, not just in the Cultural Commission meeting, but around the community, is, man, I put it in both papers, it's on the web, it's on this place, it's been promoted on social. Yet some people, it did not make it to under the rock that they were living in. And you know what? I think that's just something that while we all work towards being better at it, we can't base our success on that one person who didn't hear about it if other people did hear about it. And we'll never hit everybody, but you've got our commitment that we're absolutely going to try to use every line of communication we have to hit everybody.
Well, and even if it's that market that we might not be getting, that, we have this market, but we need this market. So what are we going to do to capture that this time? That kind of thing.
Right.
Okay.
And so just, specifically off the top of my head, the cross-promotion that we've done between the outdoors and the arts in the last year has been huge. And I'll comment on that when I go into the shows that we've been to. But cross-promotion is the way to unify different markets, and really what it is we're looking for a visitor, and a visitor's going to enjoy our history. They're going to enjoy our farm to fork dining options. They're going to love our trails and our open spaces, and they're going to have a great time experiencing our cultural, and it's not unique. People, when they come for one, they're going to want to enjoy all of them, and it's our job to kind of make sure that that's represented, I think. So, where did all of that content go? And again, we have multiple lines of communication that we try to utilize to get everybody, but you don't hit everybody. Our website, 22 of the feature articles that were written by Terry Vance, so that would be highlighting the Great Basin native artist, one of our local photographers, things like that, all go up onto our website under the Get to Know section. And again, I encourage you to go on there and look at those articles, that features articles that we've done, because they're really visually impactful. 13 of the 22 that I posted this year were arts and culture related. On the homepage, you'll see there's 3 additional links specifically to the arts pages. Our events calendar, that is a full-time job, had almost 2,000 events on it for 2017. So James Solanoa put in almost 2,000 events. That's an average of almost 5 a day. And that obviously summertime skews that versus wintertime, because there's some days where you only have 1 or 2 events, and there's some days where you have 12 events. But what really pumps that up is gallery shows like what Sharon Ross does, that are continuous everyday events that makes it look like the community calendar is filled with things, with all of those reoccurring events. I worked with Mark when he first got here, or at the beginning of the year, to redesign the landing page for the arts. When you click on the arts under things to do, I wanted to make sure it was representative of what his vision was and where he wanted to go with it. So you'll see represented galleries, public art, performance art, museums, literary art, and the ones that have stars all keep with that new design format that the posts have, and all of the new stuff that we're putting on, which again is very photo heavy. So you can check those pages out. Performance art and literary art needs some help, and we're going to put some attention to that in 2018. And of course, the NEA Big Read is on the website as a featured event as well on the side, in addition to the calendar. Website analytics, in 2017, we averaged about 13,000 page views a month, so that was up 200% from the year before. 5,500 users, unique users a month, that's up 85%. Visiting over 2 pages per session. So our bounce rate, which is how long people come to the website and then leave, was down 35%, which equated to 45 seconds longer exploring the site. So we did see some improvement on site activity, and you can see the top countries that kind of hit in with the top states that come and visit our site. So you'll see who that's reaching. We do have the Visit Carson City app. Currently we've got 2,200, a little over 2,200 downloads on Android, 4,500 on Apple. That's what we have right now. Last year there was 2,300 new downloads. Now people come to town, they download the app, they use it for the week they're here, and then they kick it off and everything like that. So the new downloads is more important than what's current, but we do continue to see a trend of upward growth with the app. 46,000 sessions per year, so people coming to the app, opening it up and exploring it. And some of the arts-related features on there is, of course, the events calendar. We've got the audio tour for the Blue Line tour, and I would love to work to get the telephone tour at Stewart Indian School on an audio tour on the app as well. We've also got the other tours, the Capitol, things like that, the Ghost Walk, museums, libraries, galleries, public art, and performance halls listed on there. On social media, we've got 3 main platforms. They're not the only 3, but I wanted to go ahead and touch on what we do for those. Twitter, we've got 3.6 thousand followers, and it's not my most active social media platform, so I was able to actually go back in 2017 and hand count 261 posts because they don't have a button you can push to tell you that, and then went back and saw that 150 of those posts were arts and culture related events. My Twitter posts get like anywhere from 500 to 2,000 impressions per post. That was the range last year, some higher, some lower. So if you take 150 posts and you multiply that by range, anywhere from 75,000 to 300,000 impressions just for the arts alone on Twitter, which is its own specific category. Facebook's its own monster, so I didn't have time to go back and hand count what I did on Facebook last year, but that includes sharing other people's events and posts, creating events, sharing photos and videos. We started using the header to put video and photos, boosting post and paid advertising, as well as sharing our features and articles. So we have over 4,000 followers on Facebook, an average reach in 2017 of 1,000 people per post. Our engagement rate was really what I'm proud of because you can post all day long, and if people aren't commenting and sharing on it, it doesn't go anywhere on Facebook with their current algorithm. So our rate of engagement is 4 to 6% with a peak of 13%. The benchmark, you're stoked, you're high-fiving in your office if you get a 1% engagement rate. And again, that sets the Visit Carson City Facebook page far above some of these other pages to go into the new Facebook algorithm, which is focusing on engagement, live video, things like that. We're doing that. Our YouTube page, where we post all that video, got 4,800 views last year for a total of 6,300 minutes of watch time. Of course, we want more. We want better. There's nobody in the office that thinks that we've arrived, so we're going to continue to grow those numbers. Instagram is mostly branded within the outdoor community, and we reached out this year and started putting a little bit more arts posts in there. I know Mark had started his own Carson City Arts, which was to focus on that, which he's been doing a great job. But even with all of the bike enthusiasts and outdoor rec pictures, Inside the Mind of Da Vinci installation was one of our most popular posts in 2017. So you can see that again through cross-marketing, that the outdoor community isn't just about dirt, they like art too. We do paid advertising, retargeting ads throughout in the last half of the year. So what that is we're able to online pick specific keywords that we can target, that when people put that into their search engine, whatever they bring up, there's a Visit Carson City ad. And we can also geofence locations, so that when anybody goes into that location, the minute they leave, they pull up their phone, there's a Visit Carson City ad. And the same thing with different site retargeting too. And we rely on, kind of the recommendation of what the best art sites are to retarget. But this is a project that we started with Sierra Nevada Media Group. And there's a number of different categories that we're doing. But I just wanted to put the arts ones up there. This is just for the month of November. So for the keyword searches, we had over 183,000 impressions, 218 clicks, and a click-through rate of 0.12%. That is actually within the average. 0.12% seems extremely low, but when you look at what the benchmarks are, that's right there in what you're hoping for. Geofencing, 84,000 impressions, 143 clicks, 0.17, but what's more important is who we're geofencing. And so our top hits were the Crocker Art Museum in Sacramento, the Hollywood Wax Museum in Hollywood, San Francisco Museum of Historical Society of Mechanics, the Geffen Contemporary Museum in Los Angeles, the Hammer Museum in Los Angeles, Oakland Museum of California, the Broad Museum Art Gallery, the California State Capitol and Museum in Sacramento, and the LA County Museum of Art. We can target 25. These were the top producers of people who went to that art gallery, came out, were shown to visit Carson City, and clicked on it. So there's another company that we're working with that can actually then take it a step further and tell you how many people drove through your downtown. So a conversion zone. So we're going to be working with them to take out an arts ad in 2018 to promote through the year and actually be able to come back and say, of those 270,000 impressions that the arts got in the month of November alone, 1,500 people actually got in the car and drove and crossed through the fence line in downtown Carson City, which is a really great conversion to be able to commit. We also did a trains one in November to help out with the Railroad Museum with all of their events, the Polar Express, things like that, and that was equated in 232,000 impressions. Again, those numbers actually were better than the bike ads that we put out in the month of November, so arts did very well. I travel the state quite a bit, going to conferences, speaking at conferences, things like that. I've been to two governors' conferences on international travel put on by Travel Nevada. Given an opportunity to go to the media and the sales rep marketplace, which is kind of a speed dating for people who are promoting your destination within tourism across the world, because this is international, so multiple countries there. Again, spoke with probably about 40 different people individually. We were able to give out a digital press pack this year for the first year, which included 5 out of the 8 articles on that were arts related, and 1 out of the 3 videos on that were arts related. So those got into some pretty influential people's hands this year. Rural Roundup, speak monthly at Reno Tahoe Territory. We travel across the state to help out with rural communities, as well as attending Sea Otter Classic, Interbike, and the Santa Clara Travel and Trade Show. Now I include those bike conferences and bike events because, again, cross-marketing is what we did. When you go to these events and you're surrounded by bikers and bike destinations, they just assume you have good trails or you wouldn't show your face there. So after you tell them how many miles of single track you have, they're like, what else do you have? And this is true for golf shows. This is true for any of these shows that are specific to different groups. You cross-market it with the arts because the arts is relevant to every single one of those groups. And the Santa Clara Travel and Trade Show, we shared a table with a number of different destinations, and that winter visitor's guide with the native dancer on the front that won all the awards, we could not keep it on the table fast enough, as well as the art guide too, the art walk guide. We sponsored a couple different events. This was the first year doing the Entrepreneurs Workshop. Didn't spend as much time helping Mark and Shosh plan the event, but I was invited to speak at the event on social media, and I was able to attend the gallery show and help out with some of the promotion of that as well. The speech on social media was probably one of my favorite ones, again, because you could see the audience was really resonating with it. Also, the Nevada Museum of Art brought that Huey helicopter, the painted helicopter. We were able to get that to Carson City. During the Epic Rides Carson City Off-Road this year, Visit Carson City paid for the USS Nevada to make its presence. That is, of course, our local art car. And then we also paid for a local artist to bring down his bike part art sculptures that were down there, as well as additional music for the weekend. And then Inside the Mind of Da Vinci has been great to see through from start to finish. Met Michelle Riley 3 years ago on Cindy Brenneman's front porch. I was told to go there actually by Timeless, who I was going to Burning Man with at the time, and met Michelle. And to be able to introduce her to Mark and to see him work his magic to get this to come all the way to fruition has been an awesome process and just extremely satisfying.
Can I ask where those articles were?
Yeah, so one of the articles, on the website, and then also in the Winter Visitor's Guide. And then the second article was to help with a piece that you were doing for a European art magazine. We remember when you came in, you were like, I need to do a bio, and I don't know how to do a bio. So we helped Michelle write her bio so she could help market and promote outside of the area. I've never lived in a place before that embraces its diversity quite like Carson, and we certainly have room to grow, but it's one of those things that makes me proud of the community that I live in. And so to be able to work with the Native American community to help them accomplish their goals has been really satisfying. Of course, we've always promoted the Stewart Father's Day powwow. Through video or photo content creation. We use the image heavily in all of our promotion, and this year we had the pleasure of creating the video for the award for Stewart Indian School. We also worked with La Lelby Powwow and Martin in getting the powwow down into the city where it might be more accessible at the MAC. We did pay for some direct cost of that to kind of defer to kind of entice them to come on down there, and I got to say it was awesome. It was an amazing event, and so we helped with their imagery, design work, printing, social media, things like that. The Great Basin Native Artists year-long exhibit in Carson at the Visitors Bureau was another project that was great to see from start to finish. Where 3 years ago, when I was speaking at the IANTA conference in Las Vegas, met Melissa and Ben and started talking about how could we get their contemporary Native American art into Carson City. So again, to see that come to fruition after talking about it for so long has been satisfying. And of course, that led to the creation of a lot of articles highlighting those artists that were focused, which led to a relationship with First Nations Focus, which was the Native American publication where all our content was, and we were advertising the show as well. We've also this was the first year working with the Hispanic community. Kind of been a career goal of mine to just start translating some of our material in so that, everybody is exposed to it. So Lupe, it's been awesome working with you and your students and being able to translate posters, descriptions, advertisements, and we did that for the Levitt shows, the Nevada Day, as well as with the Film Fest with Linda Belgray. We also paid for multiple translated radio spots on Laser Radio, and I got to be honest, it worked. Good. It worked. When I went to the events, you saw the turnout, and we'll be happy to continue that relationship with Laser Radio. Dia de los Muertos, which was a first-year event at Nevada State Museum. We helped print the poster. Not only did I attend the event, I brought my kid, I brought friends, my parents came. It was packed. It was standing room only for the dancers. We did have photographers there on Thursday before the crowds got too crazy. We've got about 30 images from that Lupe that can be used to promote next year and everything like that as well. And then, like I said, we did a Silver State update episode to help promote that also. So that was great working with that. And then the holiday posada around Christmas time, which the image on the cover is actually from that event. So. Lastly, I'm working with 2 interns from the Latino cohort. Hishe Cardoza right now is who I'm working with most. She's helping Linda Belgray out with the 5th Annual International Film Festival. She's solid. You got a great student right there. I wish every intern from here on out is half as motivated and organized as Hishe is. So you got an amazing student. She has helped Linda out so much. She's picking music. She's going around delivering posters. She's helping with digital because Linda needs help with digital, social, all of that good stuff. This is just an amazing relationship right now. And Jose Conchas, who we were going to do winter outdoor sports is what he chose. We obviously don't have a winter at the moment, so I'm going to get a hold of him and see what we can modify so that we can get some action for Jose as well. Nevada Day weekend was an amazing cap-off to an amazing year. It was absolutely jam-packed with stuff. I was certain at any moment the wheels were going to fall off of our bus and everybody was going to go tumbling in different directions, but somehow we kept it together. The events that are listed on there were the ones that we were focused on. So, of course, it was the Nevada Day Parade, Celebration of the Arts, the La Lelby Powwow, the Passport to Downtown, which was the DBA event on the day before, and the Capitol Collage. And I'll address the fact fact that I do not have Blinky Man up there, even though I was responsible for that event on Friday. It was not a priority of the Visitors Bureau, and no resources were spent by the Visitors Bureau other than the obligatory one post on Facebook and one post on Twitter. The ad in question in the back of the guide was a gift by Nevada Day. Came to me in the 11th hour and said, "Hey, does Blinky Man have a poster?" And I was like, "Yeah, actually, it's the best poster I've ever designed in my life." But we didn't print out any, I didn't distribute any, so Ken was like, "Hey, can I just fill this back page because you are an event from Nevada Day, and I want you to be included in it." But our focus, I assure you, were these 4 events, and we had multiple creative team meetings that pretty much laid that focus out without question. So I want to talk about Capital Collage because we've been, and I won't beat a dead horse because Lord knows we've talked about this enough, but you do want to know what we did to help promote that event. So there was a press release and photo package that was distributed statewide through the Nevada Press Association. That was a paid feature through them, so that went out to everybody through the state of Nevada. There were articles and press releases in the Nevada Appeal and Carson Now. They were also sent to RGJ and other regional papers. We made sure that the event was listed in different regional magazines and publications, not limited to, but like Getaway Tahoe and Tahoe Weekly, who we've done advertising in the past, and over this last year have actually on their own included more Carson City events without us having to contact them. Their eyes are on us now for regional events. It was on the website calendar and the app. We had it as a featured event. We also did video content, which was tied into the Nevada Day cover promotion, but it was very heavy in Capital Collage imagery, so we were able to use that. In-person and poster press release distribution in Winnemucca CVB, Elko CVB, and Folk Life Center. That was Terry Vance. She was going across Highway 80, and she offered to take posters and package it and distribute that along the way. And then James Solanoa and Shauna also went out and put about 8 hours in distributing posters around town as well. And again, you could put posters everywhere. You're still gonna miss somebody. So I personally went and spoke at 8 in the morning at the Reno Arts Consortium when Mark was speaking somewhere else promoting the event. Also at the RTT and also at the Downtown Business Association. Mark did a great video with Courtney Bloomer, It's Your City, promoting. Went ahead and shared that in all of our distribution. And on social, made three tweets about the event, which resulted in 7 tweets. Doesn't seem like a lot, but it was actually more than I did for the La KLB Powwow and Nevada Day. On Facebook, I created the event, went ahead and posted 12 times with different videos and articles about the artist, what was up for auction, things like that. Posted in different Nevada group pages that we're involved in through the Visitors Bureau to get it out through the state. And then I also did statewide and local paid advertising. $75 is what it totaled. Again, that doesn't seem like a lot for advertising, but in social media, it actually does produce hundreds of thousands of impressions. So it certainly by no means was a drop in the bucket, and it was about $75 more paid marketing than I did for the powwow, and about $25 more than I did for Nevada Day. The Nevada Day ad was the translated into Spanish ad, and I went ahead and put that out in the region. So there were photographers at the event, produced amazing images. We're using them heavily, and there was actually a media distribution follow-up with those, which we don't normally do follow-ups after events. You know, we do promotion leading into event to hopefully get you there, but after it's all said and done, we don't usually do a follow-up. We did this time. And then on the day of the event, Chris and I delivered supplies, wine that was donated from Barb, and offered up time on that one. So, could it be more financially successful? Absolutely. Was it a bad event? Absolutely not. You know, I mean, you can tell from the reviews, the photos, everything like that. Mark put on an amazing event. And the best you can hope for in a first-year event from anybody who puts on events knows that you're probably going to throw an amazing event for your friends at your expense. You know, and then those friends are going to go out into the world and they're going to advocate for you, and people are then going to understand what the event's all about. So I hope we can get the conversation, or continue the conversation about where to reschedule this, and any other issues that we're involved in it we can work out internally, you know, so. So what was the results of our effort in 2017? I mean, I think you guys can see clearly that arts and culture received the lion's share of our time and our resources this year. If you add up all of the places that information was put out, all the impressions, the arts alone received millions and millions of impressions last year. And I'm not talking like piddly 1.2 or 2.5. I mean, we're talking millions and millions of impressions. Digitally, in person, in print, ads, all of that stuff. We got 1 new sculpture and 4 new murals this year. I mean, that's awesome. That is huge inventory increase. And if you went to those events, you could see that we had record attendance. And that's awesome. I mean, those are great, performance indicators that you want to see of are we moving forward. And most importantly, I think our community has a higher sense of arts and cultural awareness, appreciation, and pride. And I'll use the Levitt series to kind of dial that one in. The attendance was awesome. I mean, to not know the impact of that event, you would have had to not attended a single event in the last 2 years. But what really the impact was is that the first year that we were going for that grant, it got under 50 votes to bring barrier-free live music to Carson City, under 50 votes. After the first year, the second voting period, 250 votes. That's awesome. It's still a drop in the bucket. Well, this last year when the list came back in with everybody's names and emails that voted on it, 1,300 votes. So there's still room to grow, but the impact is there and the community is hungry for the arts. Now compare our first year effort 4 years ago of what we did with the outdoors versus our first year effort with the arts. It doesn't even come close. It doesn't even come close, you guys. It's like there's no competition. If it wasn't for the marketing juggernaut that is Epic Rides, outdoor recreation would be limping along compared. So, I mean, we can really see what an impact a signature event like that does. And just imagine when we start getting some of those big signature nationally recognized events here for the arts too, how it's going to boost.
Well, and you're learning and growing through the years too, and so...
Absolutely. Yeah. So, was it a grand slam? No, I think we're loading the bases. I think we got a lot of really good momentum, and again, everybody on the team knows that there's room for improvement, and we become inspired by what we see through the year, and we learn from our mistakes. So there's not a doubt in my mind that we're not going to improve. I do want to address, though, that there's a couple projects that we're excited to see come to completion, just like you guys are. And so, of course, policies and procedures, which is going to set the groundwork for our public arts program and really help kind of direct where we're going, which really leads into the completion of the next 2 projects, which really are going to be hugely impactful. You know, we've been talking about these for years. We've got grant money for it. We've got donations for it. There are so many different factions of the community that are excited about the Artistic Bike Racks program and the redesigned space. So looking forward to seeing those be completed in 2018. And then this is an ongoing goal, and that's just continuing to unite the local arts community. And I'll be honest, with the attendance tonight in the crowd and the stuff that we've got going on that Mark's working on, I think that we are on a great path, to really be able to honestly say our art community is united. So again, that's an ongoing grassroots effort that's on all of our backs, and so that's what we are committed to, is a multi-year effort to help realize this shared vision of a thriving arts community. And through communication, through collaboration and participation, just like every other group that we work with, there's no way we're not going to be successful. So maybe that wasn't as short as I thought it was going to be. But hey, in addition to having my hands full with this, like most of you, I also have a volunteerism problem, and I serve on 3 boards throughout the community, and I am also a single parent during the school year, so if there is any time where I'm not able to make one of these meetings, know that I've got an open door policy, and you guys are invited to come into my office anytime. If it's comments, questions, if you have concerns, if you got bright ideas, come on in, let's talk, because I'm definitely will make time to collaborate towards finding solutions. So, thank you.
Thanks for that update, Kyle. I think Kyle nailed it on the head, by the top of the list was policies and procedures, and I know Matthew and I have had some conversations. He's a good example of an artist that needs those policies and procedures in place so he can get his piece up, and so that's clearly my priority among projects, and that will be my vantage point going forward. Thank you. Thanks,
and
Kyle.
I just want to make the comment that I attend a lot of meetings, and this room was really full tonight. It actually rivals some of our board meetings, not the most raucous ones, but some. So that's pretty good.
Well, and thanks, and I just want to point out, we're all here to help. We all want to pitch in, and, Mark's asking us to step up a little more, and I know that we're all going to do it. And so, we just want to make sure we're doing the best we can, to get the word out there. And, going to the State of the City address last week up in Reno, they're definitely on an upward trajectory with art too, and they're really focusing and emphasizing it and about the quality of life in Reno and stuff, and also they brought up the point that we all know that cultural tourists spend more money. And so I think it's a great time right now. Everyone feels energized, and it's awesome to be right in the mix. So thanks. You're not Chris.
I am not Chris, but Chris unfortunately has been fighting that flu bug, I think that everyone's been fighting, and having an opportunity now, being back and having to represent the CTA board, I'm here on behalf of Chris. So I'll go ahead and go over first I think she's got down the occupancy and room revenues. So the last report to the CTA board, which was last week, this is through November 2017. So as we've talked about, we're always about 60 days behind in the collection of room tax revenue. We're currently working into getting all of the room revenue in for December of 2017. But for November of last year, just November alone, the top 5 properties were up 41.5% over the same month in 2016. And I'll get to why that's so important to you guys and us as a community. But bottom line, as a community, we were up 34.62%. That was an increase of just below $400,000 in additional room revenue that came in just in November. The best thing about that is, we talked about shoulder season. In our shoulder season, we're increasing 35% in our revenues over the course of 1 year. Spectacular. So going down, looking at count, and I know this is the boring stuff. I don't get to do slideshows and all the presentations and get to show all the fun. But this is important because this is how we fund it. We as a community stepped up 3 years ago and 5 years ago and knew the importance of saying, hey, as a community, for us to grow, we have got to increase tourism. We have got to see the biggest industry in our entire state, and as the capital city, we are falling short. And it has been absolutely spectacular for 5 years. We not only finally climbed out of the hole, but we have continued to drive the entire state. We're above Clark County, we're above all the other communities in room tax revenue increases and average daily rate, all of those measurables at the lodging properties and my board that I worked for the last 5 years, the CT board, that's what they need to see. And it's spectacular for November. So year to date, calendar year 2017 versus 16, room revenue, we are up over 4.5 million. Up 4.5 million, coming in at nearly $21 million. When you look at that increase, 28.23%, if you look at the fiscal year, and we obviously all work on governmental, so the fiscal year is what we're reporting to Department of Taxation. Currently within the fiscal year 18, which started July 1 of 2017 and is currently going through June 30th of 2018, we're already up 31.6%, coming in at almost $2.7 million above that of 2016. So currently we've brought in nearly $11.2 million. Now, why that's important, once again, we as a community stepped up and we said we are going to find a way to fund art. And we're going to use room tax because that's about the only public funding you can possibly ever use to fund art. And it's been spectacular for this community. And we're seeing that when you go through the numbers that Kyle reports. Kyle's job is to bring tourists to this community and get that brand out there in front. Basically, we drew a circle of 100 miles and told Kyle, look outside it. That's your job. And you start looking and bring people in and find those target markets, find the avenues of opportunity. And it's happened. I mean, you look at the numbers, it is spectacular. Once again, we increased room tax 1% so that we could fund all of this and become part of the game. Why it's important, when you look at the calendar year, you look at the fiscal year, That brought in, calendar year, was an additional $45,000 to the arts. On the fiscal year alone that we're currently in, we budgeted $207,000. That's what we said that 1% would bring in. $207,000 to pay for the position, to pay for operating costs, and to pay for the marketing. We're already looking at being able to increase that possibly another $35,000 in this current fiscal year. So if we continue to see that growth, we get to have more money for this process. So that's why it's so important. Unbelievable numbers. I love reporting them. Overall, when you talk about, and sometimes we don't really toot our own horns. We don't drum to our successes. Because we've had such incredible increases in room revenue, when I took over the Bureau, we were at $12.3 million. We're going to top $22 million this year. That's people coming to this community and spending a ridiculous amount of money in our restaurants, in our lodging properties. The greater portion of their spending actually happens outside of their lodging. So it's very impactful for this community, and that's why we're all here. Ultimately, we had went over the 2016 numbers. We budgeted last year $422,000 in marketing. A greater portion of that, as you saw tonight, went towards supporting the arts and culture. And the reason why we were comfortable doing that is because over the 4 years it took to let the rest of the world know what a great outdoor recreation component Carson City had for visitors, we needed to now show the arts side, and we got the results quicker in 1 year than we did in the 4 years of the outdoor recreation. Now, that doesn't mean we forego outdoor, we just continue to diversify. So it's a just unbelievable opportunity. To be up 34% in the month of November is great. So I look forward to December when we come back next month. I think that's all that Chris had down, unless there's any questions of me.
Yeah, so the 1% that is dedicated to the arts, is it this lower box over on the right side, the 2017 figure? Is it 1% of that?
No, so what you're looking at on that is the trailing 12, and that's typically something that a lodging property is going to use. They're doing comparisons based on the trailing 12 months of business. So those are numbers. What you're going to look at is the bottom line in the budget of the Visitors Bureau. So I'll go over some numbers with you, Jess. So through all revenue sources, we're looking at budgeted in fiscal year 18, $2,132,360.23. Now, we'll augment that number based on those new increases that I talked about. This is something we set a year ago. Coming this May, we'll be able to increase that significantly based on the new room revenues coming in. You're looking at, of that, the $21 million, 1% of that goes back in. So the collection of 11%, 1% or 10% of that collection ends up going back into the arts and culture. So the budgeted amount for fiscal year 18 was $207,000 in change. Now, once again, you're going to look at more than likely by the end of this fiscal year having $235,000 in that. So there's another $35,000 that wasn't budgeted in the 1% that's going to be for the use of Mark.
And that's separate from my marketing budget, which also supports the arts as well.
Yeah.
That's all.
Now, the challenges we face, and I certainly don't want to go outside of the scope of what Chris was reporting on, but we talked about that circle of 100 miles. And to change the mindset of focus on every dollar we spend to go to the Chicago market, and when we got a direct flight from Mexico to make sure that we were getting to that market, and that's really the focus of what the Bureau is. And when you look at the NRS statute of when we collect room tax, we're supposed to spend that money to market our community. It is so difficult to find a way to get locals engaged and aware of what we're doing. And it really has never been the focus of the Visitors Bureau. But we absolutely will focus on trying to make that happen. We touched on all of the articles in Carson Now and Nevada Appeal. The majority of those, when you see Terry Vance writing, that is certainly on our behalf. She writes, because of her name recognition, we get a lot more play out of that. I think that, I would certainly recommend with Kyle to continue to create those relationships with the Nevada Appeal and Carson Now as our local papers, because we don't cover it as a news feature. We don't go to an event to take pictures and put it into the newspaper to talk about how great it was, because by that time that happens, our job's over. Yeah, and so really that is our focus, but we are going to do a better job to play within that circle this year. We have to make sure that we collaborate with everything you're doing great, everything Mark's doing, to make sure that our community's aware also. Because a lot of these are ticketed events.
Yeah, let's get Reno people to come down here for lunch and spend their money.
Now, I will tell you, I know that, we have one of the commissioners from the CTA.
You might consider a door hanger for every door in this town, because otherwise, they don't see it. I've walked my neighborhood 6 blocks, having a clue.
Yep. So when we had the first year of Epic Rides, the code enforcement officer with the city and myself walked around and put a door hanger on every single house on the west side that was affected by it, and nobody saw them on their door, apparently. But that being said, so no,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So the final item under 13 is future agenda items, and diving a little bit deeper into the numbers that Joel just provided for us. Maybe in March, not at our May meeting, because we have a lot to do for the RAC applications, but maybe kind of a breakout of how much of that 207,000 was spent on arts programming? Like how much of that then was, we don't need a lot of details, but then, so how much did we really have available for programming, for extra promotional, for actual art, purchase, whatever?
Right, that 1% includes not only my salary, not only for me to get my teeth cleaned every once in a while, it includes me going to Michael's to make Christmas cards to send to everyone that I know about arts and culture. It includes me going to conferences, a lot of the slideshow presentation, me getting there. But it also includes items like Michelle's sculpture, keeping the museum open for the Day of the Dead celebration, all that other stuff. It's that 1%. There's a lot in that 1%, and other cities have templates of that 1% based upon its arts and culture structure.
Right. I mean, you're really great at outreach. You really are. And so
well,
I know that takes
we have
money
to be.
too.
So I am too, and I know he supports me getting out there and going about spreading the word just as Kyle does.
Yeah. Okay. Any other future agenda items you want to mention?
Yes, True Grit on future agenda items, and Joe McCarthy is going to speak to us, and I would be doing a disservice to Commissioner Bugley if I didn't say there was a lot of Mile High Jazz Band and Carson Symphony events. Due to the time that we're at right now, I'm going to say please contact me and I can send you this wonderful list of events. And please join me afterwards walking out. Michelle has been very kind and patient for this 3-hour meeting. Let's go out and just see how awesome her piece looks with the lights on. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
I would just like to say we're trying to close down the campaign for the flower baskets. They don't appear by magic down the center of town. They are sponsored. So we have to start planting at the end of this month at the Greenhouse Project. So if you want to sponsor, please get your form in. Go on carsоncitygreenhouse.org. You can download a form and send your money in. It gives you all the information, your signage, how you would like to be acknowledged, or if you want to remember someone or something like that. But $225 for one, $400 for two. That pays for all the watering throughout the summer months as well. Okay.
They are beautiful.
Thank you.
They are beautiful to see.
And loved. On your list of all of these events coming up, it would be nice to know times and location. I know that's terrible, but where do you go to get that information? I'm not talking about me, I'm talking about the public, where do they go to get that information?
James Salanoa.
I'm just saying.
It will be on the community calendar at visitcarsoncity.com.
Right, he was just providing us a year's worth of
A year's worth.
So is there any public comment at this time? No, everybody's talked out. Good. All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Good night.
Wow. Done good, lady. Tough meeting.